Asienya Baraisrea Varenya. Now that's from The Lion King. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Watch that original one that was like made when I was a kid. It's probably much better than the new one that you guys are all watching. Anyway, this is HLTV Confirmed. It's episode 20. We were talking about Mighty Ducks before, so I got Disney on the brain. And I'm going a little bit insane. I'm locked in this house. I get to leave tomorrow, but everything's looking cool. So before we get into the guests and what's going on here, we're quickly going to touch on what tonight's show is all about. This is episode 20. As I said, we're going to be looking at some things going on with Liquid, mouz sports. They're struggling. We've got all these new roster changes going off. Olof stepping down, backing out of the FaZe roster for a period of time. We got all those bits and pieces to cover. But before we get stuck into that, we need to introduce the panel. And tonight we have Striker. Striker, I got a question for you, mate.
There you go.
Now, I need you to use your imagination here. This is a very integral part of
That's
this
pretty
question.
tough, you know.
If there was a grizzly bear and a great white shark and the water wasn't an issue, the great white shark could just fight, and they were in a cage and they were fighting to death, who would win? The great white shark or the grizzly bear?
Is there the right answer to this or not?
I want you to explain to me why you think which one will win. But remember, the shark, it can't just like float around. That'd be a little bit unfair.
The thing is, like, the shark in general has, like, he doesn't have legs, so I just don't know how it would work. So I feel like the grizzly bear has to win, right? He doesn't have arms. He doesn't have legs. He's barely going to be able to reach the grizzly bear properly and shit. So I feel like the grizzly bear wins, right?
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, Prof. I didn't have enough time to think of a good question for you. But if you could only eat one food, it's like a dish for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, there has to have to be like some form of pasta.
Okay, it's not very nutritious, is it?
That's the issue, but it has to be a dish. So maybe you do like a chicken pesto pasta. That you have like all the bases covered.
All right, gotta get some vegetables in there. But all right.
You get the basil and
Lucas,
shit, so.
I don't even know if the people at home can hear you. Can the people at home hear you?
They can hear me now with my terrible microphone.
Well, that was the question. People at home can hear you. All right, Lucas is here as well. So we can get the show underway here. There's no guest this evening. We were going to get Vendetta on, but he's got DreamHack going on right now. We can't pull him away from that. So thank you for joining us if you're here with us now. We're going to get stuck into the recent news. Play the bumper, Lucas. All right, we are back and we're getting into the recent news. Now, there's been a lot of news. We haven't actually done a show with just the three of us in a very, very long time. And we also haven't had a chance.
Not this season, I think.
Yeah, and we also haven't had a chance because of Road to Rio and Pro League and now DreamHack. The shows have been a little bit more all over the place. So, yeah, this is the first kind of recap where we get to just do us, and maybe we can talk through some of the things that we've missed. Just for those who are with us now in the chat, if you want to leave some questions, we'll maybe note them down. We got playtime at the end if there is time left over where we can discuss those. But let's get stuck into the first bit of news. This is Stewie takes over as the Liquid in-game leader. Now, Striker, I asked you, I said, how do we know this is confirmed? How do we know this is confirmed?
There was just a clip from Twist, one of Twist's recent streams where he said that, so to be correct, unless things have changed. Sorry?
Stewie as well, like on his stream, he was asked about this clip, so then he expanded a bit. So he said he was in-game leading and then Nitro wasn't feeling good individually. It's just like the classic reason why you didn't even have to hear it. If I asked you, Chad, like, why do you think it happened, you would just give me the same explanation. So whatever you think happened, that was their take on it.
Yeah, so look, I had obviously the privilege of in London to listen to the voice comms of the teams, and Liquid are a team who communicate in English, so I had the privilege right there to listen to their communication and that kind of stuff while they were playing their matches. And look, it wasn't like Nitro was calling a lot then anyway, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't recall him being like a very predominant force within the team. There was a lot of calling that I heard that was either like just people doing mid-round shit, or if people were doing a default, they were just talking about how they were going to control a certain part of the map. Didn't really feel like there was a lot of like in-game leading going on. Now, to be fair, I haven't played professionally since 2016, so I'm not quite sure exactly how it's meant to sound. But it didn't sound the way that I thought a team who were going to be winning.
To be fair, just to go slightly off topic here, like I was listening to like some voice comms that Astralis released. Like they released like 2 or 3 episodes in the past couple of weeks, I think. And honestly, like I thought the same with Glaive. Like he barely called anything, at least in those. Obviously, it could have just been individual rounds where he just didn't call so much, and it was just like, I don't know, the way that they picked it out. But from what I saw there, even though it was on the T side, I didn't hear him call like massive amounts. He just like, and after some mid rounding, he ended up calling like where they're gonna go, and that's basically it.
I'm gonna like go out there on a bit of a limb here. Now we actually have Devil Walk in chat, so maybe he can type something in there to confirm for everybody at home. But I know there was periods in my career when I was playing where I wanted to get someone else's perspective, or I wanted to kind of like take a back seat from calling for like a couple of nights or whatever, so I could kind of just see how other people would approach the game and get some ideas, or allow me to focus on my crosshair a bit more. All of those things, like I can definitely see the logic there. And also with all these online games and playing so much Counter-Strike, having somebody else who would be your second in charge calling some rounds, or having your coach do it or whatever with the online realms, it might make you a bit harder to read and a little bit more unpredictable. But in terms of this change right now coming out of the Liquid camp, it's probably one that might last for a little while, right? We're in the realms of online here. It's one that I don't know if they would go back to changing things around anytime soon. But do we think that for Liquid, this is a question overall. I had the same thought with Astralis. Liquid have a little bit harsher in their region than Astralis do, but for them, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the finals in their own region, it's not going to hit the same, right? Like they're playing against teams who they would consider themselves better than usually, right, Prof?
Yeah, what you're trying to say there is like their Liquid are expected to win and not just finish like second, or
well, no, I'm trying to say that like we've heard from like teams like Navi's a good example. Like Blade said that a lot in interviews we got to do with him on the broadcast about like, well, we're not in the same room, so you know it's hard to fire everybody up. Like that was the sentiment, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure for Liquid, like being the bridesmaid in 2018 to Astralis for the whole time, and now going to and being in this period of time where you're only playing local CS, obviously, you know, there's another game out now that's an FPS game that we know players are sinking some time into as well. Maybe the focus just isn't there 100%. So by having Stewie call, it makes them like maybe less jaded at the way I don't know. I think that the team is I think EG and Liquid are fucked, to be completely honest with you. I don't think that either of those teams with their current rosters can return to being a consistent top 3 team in the world. Like top 5 probably, but top 3, I don't know. Do you guys think that they're a contender anymore?
I think it's pretty reasonable to say that they need like a roster change to. The problem with the rankings now is they saying like top 5 when Liquid aren't really playing any of the top 4, 5, 6 European teams. It's kind of fucked to say anything about it because they can't really do that test, and then whatever ranking they gain, it's just going to be based on teams that are in their region. But at the moment, they aren't even winning against those teams. Like Furia now looks like, with the results they had in the last like month, maybe minus the grand final they lost to JUGi, like if that went their way, they looked like the team that could in 2 weeks become the highest ranked North American team, like without any issues. So back to the point, I kind of agree with what you're saying, that it's not that exciting to play online CS. So I understand that for Liquid, especially considering the last year. But it's like where you expect them to be and where they are is like such a huge difference that I don't think that is enough of an explanation for Liquid's game recently. And then saying like Stewie taking on the in-game leadership in that stream clip, he said something along the lines of we're playing so many matches, it's like a hectic schedule, so you don't really have enough time to really change anything. And then I actually went and looked at their matches, and they played like, I don't know the number, it's like 16 best of 3s in 2 months, and that is not even including like a break of almost a month that they had after IM Katowice. So that is not a hectic
16
schedule.
best of 3s in a month.
In 2 months.
In 2 months. So they had like one game every.
I could do the maths, but that
games.
seems like fuck all.
That is not a lot. So I feel like from a player
16
perspective,
best of 3s in a tournament. Well, maybe not 16, but yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
It's not a lot. So I feel like they are maybe just in the wrong headspace where they feel like, I have a match today and then a match in 2 days. But objectively, it is not an excuse to have at this point. Like, there is enough time in the day. And compare that to like all of these grinding teams that maybe not now, but that played open qualifiers Monday, Tuesday, then they had MDL games, then they had like, I don't know, home suite, and shit like that, and then the Loot Bet Cup, and they played like 160 best like maps in like 2 months or 3 months. So it's just, I feel like a very poor excuse for their form right now.
Dude, I wonder about this just because obviously, like, I think everybody thought that roster changes were probably not going to happen as much during this time as they would otherwise. Like we said like maybe a couple months ago or something when this started, that we expect lineups to kind of stay on for much longer than they should, just because people probably, like, because of motivational issues and because things are online and people don't really see that as the most important, even these days when it's the only thing going on, that it's probably gonna cause teams to just prolong their lifespan. But now that I'm thinking about it, actually, I feel like just because a lot of these players have nothing else to do than play CS, they're probably, like, some of these players I imagine are probably fired up to play and then just like to try to keep improving. And if you see some of your teammates not doing that, you know, I don't know, hanging out with their girlfriends all the time and shit, like not practicing properly, showing up late to practice just because it's online, whatever, something like that, like, you're probably going to get pissed. Like, it doesn't really matter if it's online, if it's LAN. Like, if you are taking things seriously and one of your teammates isn't, you're probably, like, it's going to lead to changes eventually.
It's going to become very difficult for these coaches and the systems that a lot of these orgs have put in place with the managers to keep these kids accountable, right? Because, look, I used to have it in my team going back into the Renegades days. Like, Havoc would go in the middle of scrims. In the middle of scrims, he would open fucking the Steam friends thing and he'd be chatting to people, or he'd be fucking bringing up a web page there and searching shit. Like, that happened back then. I can guarantee you that shit still probably happens now, especially with people at home and there's no way to monitor them, right? The focus is not going to be the same. And bang on to your point as well, I think levels of resentment that can build up in teams like that, if you're putting in a lot of work and your teammates are using this time as a little bit more like a holiday because it's not as a serious travel schedule, they can actually take a bit more time to spend with their significant others or start to build a life that they wouldn't normally be able to. Like, I can sympathize with the chance to do that, right? And I can also sympathize with the guys who are hungry to kind of take that top spot or continue to practice. Either way, it's a shit situation for everybody right now. But I get where you're going with that. This is a good time as well for teams to go, well, why the fuck not try a roster change? You know, like, we have online games. We have a lot of teething room to work in with that. Sure, we're going to lose 20% of the RMR points or this, that, and the other. But
at this point, everyone is going to lose at least 20%.
Exactly.
Like, there's not a single team that's not going to lose the 20%, I feel like.
So with that in play, it's like, why not take these risks? If things aren't working, you know, let's take some risks. Now, speaking of risks, do we think that Stewie is the right guy in the team to call, considering all the other names there? It feels like the only other individual who I think could do it and still not have their game drop off significantly. Like, I wouldn't want Twist to do it. I wouldn't want Unleash to do it. I don't want Naf to do it. Kind of has to be Stewie, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Why don't the Dren do it while they're online? Like, that's what I
do.
do.
For some reason, I could imagine Naf wanting to do it, though.
No.
Like, I don't know why. What makes me think that? I just feel like he's the kind of guy who would just like kind of step. Like, if there wasn't Stewie available, I feel like he'd be the next guy to step up and try to do it.
Known for his tactic, I said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna take the op and beat the Astralis on Inferno, like, overtime, best of one or whatever." Like, I agree. Like, that is like a good quality to have as an in-game leader. But then you need like all of the baseline of like doing the preparation, doing the basic stuff every round. And I don't think he'd have that. But look, we just saw a crazier thing happen in the past.
Yeah, I don't want him to do it, but I just feel like he could be. I feel like his just personality kind of matches up to that, where he would step up and take over if it was necessary. But still, yeah, I think Stewie makes the most sense. Also from an experience side, like, he called for Cloud9 a while back, so it just makes a lot of sense from that point of view.
But seriously, the question about Adren, why doesn't he just call their online matches? Then all of them can just focus on getting their individual form up, right? Like, it's not like they need to have an in-game leader right now. They don't need to have one. We're all aware of that.
That is true.
So why doesn't Adren just call?
Even talking about like Astralis, there was a case in the past, I don't know when, with maybe 2018 or something, that Glaive did say that at some point they had Zonic all of their like practice matches for like maybe a month or something, just for him to get like his individual level up and to get like a fresh perspective and stuff like that. So I mean, Threat is doing it in NIP. It wasn't confirmed, but it's hearing the comms of some of their like rounds that they released, he's literally not calling the shots, he's calling like information for players. Time, yeah. So it would make sense, but then again, maybe Adren doesn't feel like not that he doesn't feel like, maybe he's just not in the position in the team that he would command that kind of a respect for everyone to listen to it, though.
Yeah, that would be a whole different situation, wouldn't it? Now, Lucas, I sent you a tweet. If you could pull that up for us here. Now, this tweet.
Thank you, Malaysian game leading.
This tweet was funny. People really got involved in this tweet. It really kicked off. But this was something that legitimately Henry and I, while we were stuck in this house for 2 months, spoke about, right? Because Liquid and EG, they weren't impressing. They were kind of just felt like they were coasting, right? So we were talking about building like the best team out of those two. Now other people on social media suggest, oh, why not this guy or get this guy, or the whole idea is just grabbing the best two North American teams. Who are these two teams? Like let's be real, right? These are the best two, EG and Liquid, and merging them together to have a team that could actually compete on a global scale. Now the Elige in-game leader thing is where Striker, I know you take a bit of exception there. Do you want to tell people why you think? Actually, first of all, if we didn't have the roles there, fuck the roles. If you had to merge these two teams together, Striker, who are the 5 players you'd? And you can't have Cirque because he goes back to Europe. You can have everybody else. Everybody else who's North American can stay.
Literally, the one change that is going to happen, by the way, probably.
There you go.
Where Cirque goes to Liquid because Nitro is just going to get pushed out eventually.
Well, see, that could happen. But Cooper's not a bad pickup.
Everybody sees that coming right now. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be Cirque, but like everybody sees Nitro out of that team within the next couple of months, surely.
If I was Liquid, I would probably pick up Cooper as a 6th anyway, because he was AWPing and in-game leading for a period of time there for that United roster, who then became Swole Patrol again, I think, right? So like, and he seemed like a pretty serviceable player, right?
Didn't Freakers out in-game lead the entire time, or was Cooper also?
I think he took over. I thought Cooper was in-game leading a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I misheard. Maybe I got some wrong information.
I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable about that team. I just remember Freakers was doing it at some point. But in any case, to your question, fuck, this is hard, man. Just because the game leader is just going to be a problem. Like, no matter how you look at it, unless you want to put Stan in there, which I'm just not a big fan of, I just don't see it. I just don't see a combination where you can get away from like putting an IGL onto somebody.
As I said before, I think Ethan could pull it off. Like, I legit think he could be an in-game leader. And at least in this kind of a situation where you need someone. It's not like you have an in-game leader. It's like you have to mold someone in. I think he has the highest chances.
So let me preface this a little bit more. So this whole thing here is not assuming we throw this team together and then tomorrow they're good, right? This is getting a coach, and I picked a strong coach like Kassad, because one of the problems I think both of these teams have is obviously the Zeus one is new for EG, but previously I think some of the issues they had was they didn't have like a hype man, and Kassad is definitely a very passionate guy, and he's going to get you fired up whether you fucking like it or not. And if you bullshit Kassad, I know he's not going to fucking take any nonsense. So a team of I can't think of a better word right now. I'm going to use divas. I don't actually think they're divas. I just can't think of a better word right now. But a team of players who maybe need to be told occasionally what they're doing as opposed to asked. Yeah, personalities. That's a good one for it, Lucas. I think Kassad, he wouldn't take shit, right? He's not going to listen to somebody going, oh, I don't want to play right now, or I'm hanging out with my girlfriend or this bullshit. He'll tell them to shut the fuck up and what they're doing, right? And
the problem that I see with that is I don't think Liquid is in that sort of culture in the first place, though, where the coach is going to have a lot. That's what I was going to get at. Like, that's one thing that I think does need to change in NA teams in general, where like there's more respect towards coaches. And obviously, like you saw that with like the EG Amapet situation where he probably thought he had like a little bit more power and potentially could have stayed on that roster and made other changes, but obviously that didn't happen, and the power was with the players. So like that sort of thing in NA especially is somewhere where they could probably make a change. I mean, and I don't think
that's a whole discussion to be had, like about the players and everything with the NIP situation, but that maybe we can leave that for a later
sure.
part.
I'm just saying that's like with that, sure, like he is not going to take the shit, but the problem is like he's probably not going to be able to do anything about it anyway.
Sure. Yeah, they need to be given some form of power. All right, well, we're already somehow 22 minutes into the show here, so let's keep it moving along. We're going to move on to the DreamHack Masters situation with mouzsport. Now, if you guys didn't catch it, they also lost today. It was 2-0, right? It was,
they were banged out by the Danish super master race of Mad Lions.
Now, in terms of mouzsport's free fall at this point, it's getting pretty bad, right, Prof? They've definitely dipped a lot.
Yeah, I mean they lost in the Road to Rio thing. They finished whatever, like not in the playoffs, not even close. So that was bad. And then this, I don't think anyone expected to be completely destroyed in a group with big complexity and Mad Lions. Out of these teams, like Mad Lions is the closest to top 10. I think they reached top 10 at one point, and then they didn't play anything for like a month because they just weren't in anything.
Yep.
But we could say they are like a top 10 fringe team, and the other two are not even in the top 20, I think, or just like on the edge. Big is now top 30, literally number 30 in the world. They won one map. That is like, what the fuck is going on?
So this is great for
me.
And
then, by the way, in Rio as well, they lost most of the matches that they lost was also 0-2.
So in 2020, they played 76 maps. They've won 41 and they've lost 35. I could filter that and have a look at like.
Well, it's much worse lately. Like the last two tournaments
because they
much
started the year
worse.
with the LAN, the Ice Challenge, and then they went to Katowice, which was also kind of okay, I think. And then
the last month is 7 wins and 17 losses, 24 maps played. And if you look at their players, Rops, Frozen, and Woxic all have positive ratings.
Yeah, Chris J is the big problem at this point, just because he's the biggest difference, right? Just because he was pretty good before, and
I hate.
And suddenly he's just what?
I hate the thing they're doing with the fucking Deagle buys and like him only having armor or buying. Like I understand. I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying. They fucking did it in overtime.
Yeah, and like I think a player who's an X Factor player like Chris J, he needs to be able to like take a risk in a scenario, right? But if you,
he's taking a risk, but not like a positive. It's like a passive risk, if that makes sense. Like he's risking for the other team, the other players to capitalize somehow, because like he could have had a gun in that round, but they want to ensure that Robs has a gun in the next round, so that's why he's going on
doing a Sanji,
right?
Isn't he? Just fucking feeding weapons.
Chris J is Sanjiing in mouzsports right now.
And no one needs a Sanji. Not even Sanji needs to be. I saw a round of Counter-Strike. Sanji, my friend, don't let this happen to you ever again. He died at the end of a round after the round ended. He only had $300 going into the last round of the game. And he only had a Glock, and I think he bought a HE or a smoke or some shit, and he died to a grenade. Like a grenade. That's how he finished the game. So like just trying to save guns to give to his teammates, and he didn't have. How can anybody play the game like this? Like, but
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, not even we can talk about like Sticko's role back in mouzsports. He was the guy that, not to the Sanji extreme, but he was also Sanjiing for Oscar for his op. He was playing MP9s and Mag 7s and stuff.
I love how this is a term now, Sanjiing.
Yeah, it is a term. It is a term. He was Sanjiing, like 70% Sanjiing, and then. It goes bad for the player, because you're not going into situations like into fights with like equal chances, because the other guy has an AK and you have a fucking MP9, and then you start losing duels, then you lose confidence, then all of these things start to roll into like one bunch, which means like a 0.8 rating on HLTV, and then everything's red, and then people are calling you shit, and that's just like a negative trend. That's why I think it doesn't really work, because CS is still a lot of the mental part is super important, and you shouldn't put players into these super beta positions for the team, because then what happens is you are forced to kick them because they are bad at that point. It's not like they are just like supporting. They literally, then the rounds where they have the AK and the other guy has an MP9, they still lose. So that's a fucked up thing, and I don't think it's. There was the interview we did with Kuben about Virtus Pro. He had one quote about how they always changed roles, and I think that was like a pretty cool thing, in that like if someone was playing like IGL for like a year or something, his stats went down. They did like, okay, TaZ is not going to in-game lead anymore, it's going to Neo. Then they switched the ops as well. And then always you'd have like you switch some roles, and then you have these like positive periods where you get some confidence and shit back, and then you swap it back around. So I think that's a cool thing to do overall.
Yeah, that was just making players more versatile and having to learn more, right? As opposed to just being like specialists or feeder players, as we were talking about with the Sanjiing. Now, Lucas, I linked you a tweet. Can you bring this up for everybody at home? I'll read it out for our audio listeners. This is from Regin after their loss today. He says, there is no excuse to justify the results in the last 2 tournaments. People can criticize the players all they want. The matter of fact is that it's my responsibility to make sure we perform. I've not lived up to this. Sorry to all the fans. Your support is everything. Now, unfortunately for all of these teams, the Counter-Strike world hasn't stopped because of COVID. We've kept going. So the change of like from LAN to online, we all know that's a big deal. Like we're not going to try and pull the wool over your eyes to pretend it's not. We all know that there are obviously big differences there. Not only in terms of hyping up the teammates, how hands-on you can be, how much you can focus on making sure they're all practicing. We're not in a boot camp environment. You don't even know if the motherfuckers are focusing while you're watching demos. So there's a lot of factors that are going on there. And I feel for the coaches and managers, if your players aren't as hungry as they need to be and you don't have any good ways to incentivize them or punish them, then it's going to be very difficult to get the most out of them. Right now, I'm not saying that to let Regin off the hook. He's obviously saying here that this is something he's taking responsibility for. But where do you see...
there's some class to that as well, just because we don't really see that too often.
Yeah. Well, but where do you see the problem with this team striker? Like if you had to, with the way that they're approaching the game, or with their results, with the stat lines, other than the Chris J element, do you think that there are glaring issues here?
The thing is, like, I don't even understand what happened between Pro League and Road to Rio. Like, it's just was such a sudden drop that I just don't understand.
The Krieg nerf.
That's the thing that's not it. That's not it though. Like I can see how it could make a bit of a change. Maybe it just like spiraled out of control, and then just like, I don't know, players lost confidence or don't know how to take fights anymore because they don't have the Krieg. I don't think that's what it is, just because mouz were never a team that used them like to an extreme extent or anything. They weren't the most reliable on that gun. So I don't feel like, unless you look at Kerrigan or somebody like that who just used them for such a long time, used the Krieg at least, he was like one of the first to pick it up. Like apart from him, I don't think anybody was necessarily mega reliable on the weapon or the reliance on the weapon. So I just don't see that as like the ultimate answer. So I just don't understand. I honestly don't, because I don't think they've been playing particularly differently compared to how they have. Apart from like certain individual decisions, they just seem different. But I think that's just from the game going online, and you know you're going to take different fights and stuff like that. It's just like something that's going to happen eventually. But like I didn't see any like big changes, like whole scale team changes that they've done.
Yeah, but some of the losses, like, well, up until recently, it felt like a lot of the losses were closer games, like ones that maybe if they didn't lose this round, but then like today, for example, I was watching, I think it was today, it could have been yesterday. Literally, I wake up every day and make the clowns here breakfast, and then they're casting, and then I can hear it through my bedroom wall, and then it's on the TV upstairs, and you just can't escape it. But it's not even about escaping it. Like I was watching today with the mouz sports game, and I was on Nuke, and I think Frozen was in like a 1v4 on the T side, I think, and it was versus an Eco. All the days of...
I think that was yesterday, I'm pretty sure.
Could have been yesterday. But it's like those kind of situations, they're ones that mouz are able to bail themselves out of. Like their individuals can win those rounds. Like Rops will win a big clutch, Frozen will win a big clutch, Woxy will still go huge, you get like a nice multi-kill. But that's maybe where the issue is. Like if they're only winning those rounds as individuals and they're not winning as a team or whatever, maybe that's where it's falling apart. Because I remember interviewing Kerrigan at the start of either Pro League or Road to Rio, I forget which one, and I asked about like the transition, or one of the guys on the panel did, and he was like, yeah, look, we'll just be doing mainly our smoke gimmicky stuff, we won't be bringing out too many new strategies and stuff. But Regin, I've heard from him recently saying that Kerrigan's been putting in a lot of work on coming up with new strategies and tactics or whatever. And it's going to be hard to do all that with all the officials. Then you're doubting yourself. You're doubting your performance. You got Kristou who's down on his personal performances as well. It's like, it just feels like they're in a negative spiral right now. And unfortunately, they can't... Well, I guess they get a chance now because they're knocked out of DreamHack, right? But maybe some time away will be good, because this has been very intense, right? And mouz was the end of last year.
Blast Showdown like next week.
So. Fuck. Okay. Well, cancel that.
Aren't they also in the fucking... Wait, give me 1 second.
They're all
in
that
game.
thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are in the fucking Gamers Without Borders. So they're literally playing like 2 tournaments, 3 days. But that's when Blast is also starting at the time, or like just after that. So I feel that they're only going to have like 4 to 5 days off or something, 4 days.
Yeah, so the charity thing could be good for them because obviously it's a charity thing. So maybe they'll just, be a bit more loosey-goosey or just do whatever the fuck, have a bit more fun with it. Who knows? But yeah, I think that it's maybe just, we've all been there. Like, as human beings, we've all been there. We wake up and you're in a negative mindset, and then your whole day fucking sucks. And then you wake up the next day and it sucks. Like, people can get into those mindsets. And with these guys having these losses and knowing that they can't go to LAN where they do better and they can't be in those kind of environments, it's just going to feel shitty. Prof, do you have anything like stands out to you as a reason that they're not performing?
Yeah, I think it's just like a couple of these things added together. The way they play is kind of a lot of this individual skill. They want to flex that, especially on the T side, find duels and stuff like that. And then when you have Chris J's form going down, Kerrigan's as well, then I don't know, Frozen as a player sometimes is up and down as his role as well. And then everything just falls apart. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I really, like, in some of these games, it looked like they were like the complete underdog that just came in through an open qualifier into this like big event. And they look completely, it's like, as you said, they win like the off rounds, but overall they look like out of depth, completely outclassed. So I really don't know.
I do think that that DreamHack is really just mainly just loss of confidence complete, which is just stemming from the tournament before, from Road to Rio. Because there, I agree, they just looked completely like out of focus. They just like almost gave up early, like didn't really have too many like ways to try to come back into the game, didn't try to come up with something new, stuff like that. Like, something that you generally see with teams that just don't have a lot of confidence, don't really know how to win games. So I think that's what it was this time. But I just don't know I don't understand what happened in Rio that even led to this point.
I think a lot of their strats, at least the quicker ones, feel like all-ins because it's about quickly using your utility to take territory and make the CTs scatter and have to deal with you, right? Or find a gap and punish, especially Train. Like, Train sticks out of so much mouz and Train that I've watched. But the way that, like, there's not many teams at the moment who I can think of who do opening moves that are all-ins like that. That I could, like, I'm trying to think across a lot of maps here. There's not too much stuff on the T side that feels like it's all-ins early unless it's like a low buy or it's just a fast strat and you either win or lose. But mousesports openings feel like all-ins that then they fall back on their stars to once they make the space to go for clutches. But if Karrigan and Chris J are the two low performers and they're the ones who are making space in some of these strategies and they're not making any space, they're just dying, then that's not helping anybody, right? So, I don't know. When it works, Karrigan looks like a genius because he's fucking popped on out there, he's through a smoke, he's fucking in the back line, he's got 3 kills or some shit. When it doesn't work, it just looks shit. And unfortunately for mousesports at the moment, they all know it. It looks shit. Hopefully they can turn it around. Hopefully they can't be a top whatever team it is for 6 months so I don't lose this bet. But anyway, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to move on to the first impressions because if you've been missing out, ladies and gentlemen, well, there's been a lot of fucking changes recently. That's back to Striker's point earlier. We thought that maybe in this time things might level on out. But no, things are chopping and changing. And once again, burnout has been cited as another reason. So JUGi has joined Astralis as the 7th member. Glaive has taken a break. I think he said like 3 months or some shit. But
it was kind of unspecific.
Yeah, it's pretty vague.
The way it was worded, it was like, I will take care of myself and focus on recovery for the next 3 months. But he didn't say like if he was maybe going to play after 2 months, but still be focusing on the recovery. It's like, It's a classic vague statement that kind of says it's probably going to be 3 months, but if JUGi is super shit, then maybe he comes back earlier,
Or as
I just had such a fucking awful pun in mind when you said vague because it kind of sounds like Glaive's nickname, being a little bit fumbled. So
leave the bad puns to me.
Yes, I'm not gonna go there.
So JUGi's played 3 series now with Astralis, right? I think he played 3 series with DreamHack. Now, just to quickly do a bit of history on JUGi, he was playing in North at the start of the year. He was replaced by MSL. Now, no offense to MSL by any means, but if you're meant to be a prospect as an AWPer, which JUGi was for a very long time, and you're getting replaced by MSL, now obviously they need an in-game leader, so you need to factor that in as well. But fuck me, bro. Like, holy shit.
I mean that part, like, sure, we've gone on in JUGi for such a long time for this, but at the same time, like, that was the move that North just needed to make, right? And if MSL is just set on AWPing, then it has to be instead of JUGi. There's nobody else that you can really look at and make that change. So this, I think it was kind of a special case where North just like, I don't know, what's the saying? Hit two birds with the same stone. There you go.
Oh yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. Yep. That's the one.
Maybe 2 birds, 1 cup. I'm not sure.
Oh my god.
That was also
two in the hands, worth 1 in the bush.
That sounds so sexual. I don't know.
Well, look, you can take it however you want. But let's just, Striker, in terms of the initial impression, what did you think of? Because obviously it's more than just the JUGi situation, right? It's more than just him coming in. It's also Magus in-game leading, right?
That's the thing. Like we've never got that confirmed unless there was some interview that I missed during the tournament.
I think there was an on-stream interview. I'm pretty sure. Like,
did they confirm this? I didn't see it anywhere, so I'm just still. Yeah. Okay. I mean, if that's the case, that's definitely something to look out for, because like I was trying to confirm this and it just wasn't possible, and Astralis for some reason thought that it was not a good idea for them to share it on their own. So it's just, the whole situation was just so weird, just because they never really said anything about that. In general, like, I mean, obviously if you look at the stats, JUGi has not been doing particularly well, like especially in the first match I saw him. Who was it against? Heroic. There you go. Oh yeah, they played the Danes right after one another. They won that match, but obviously, well, he didn't do particularly well. He had a good map against North afterwards, but yeah, from what I saw against G2, even though I didn't see the match, I saw the stats and he just didn't do well again. So it's like,
I mean, overall his like average is like something pretty...
0.91. Yeah, pretty far behind everybody else on the team. Like ZipX is the next lowest at 1.10.
Yeah, that's an important point right there as well, right? It's like who's gonna who's gonna take what roles? Because there's no way you can plug JUGi into Glaive's positions. That would be impossible, right? Someone else is going to have to take that responsibility. There's no way JUGi's taking Device's AWP away. That doesn't make any sense either. There's no way JUGi's taking entry fragging away. There's no way JUGi's playing for clutches. So I don't really know what JUGi's doing.
Well, he's kind of like, I feel like they just swapped around a bunch of stuff, just because on Vertigo he's like on B, where I think Glaive was mainly on A. And on CT side anyway, on T side, I feel like it's just a little bit jumbled in general. I'm not sure, because I don't remember exactly where Glaive played all the time. So it's hard for me to say. I have a shit memory for these things, for like where players play and stuff like that.
Yeah, normally I keep a note.
But he did take like double upping fairly often, at least from what I saw in the Vertigo game. But then I think otherwise not much. And now that I'm looking at like the weapons stuff, I just don't think he took up too much in any other game.
I think Harry and Hugo were telling me at one point like JUGi was low or some shit, so Device dropped him the AWP in like a 2v whatever. I was like, okay, well if that's all you boys remember, that's good enough for me. Do we have the thumbs, Lucas? Did you give him the thumbs?
He did not.
I can find them
it's
for
all good. Prof, this JUGi thing, you think it's gonna work? You think they're gonna make a change? You think they're going to stick with it for a while?
I mean, there's nothing to work. Like, what is the point? Like, what is anything at this point? Let's just stop and think about the concept of existence on the planet Earth. But no, seriously, like, what is the point of it? They just want to play out the games they have. Why would they care how they finish in this DreamHack Masters event? Because he was free, and I guess they wanted to do like refresh Magic and then refresh his career or something like that. But it's like, he probably is the best free agent that they could have gotten in terms of like exposure to the top scene, experience and stuff like that, and they know him fairly well. It's not like North getting this like Kristou guy who they still had to loan out, so they had to pay some money for him, and JUGi just came in free. So I feel like that's the thing. And then they play out whatever. What?
Get him in there. Get No-Tan back.
No-Tan.
I don't even know what's up with that guy.
Deagle back. Get him in there.
It's not even the 1D anymore.
He got rid of the 1 Deagle part.
Yeah, he did. But I don't even know what happened to that guy.
All right, we'll get
he's still playing in the sub top of the Danish scene.
Okay. Probably playing in Lucas's tournament right now. All right, you got the thumbs. All right, we're gonna go. Yeah.
At the same, like, we just saw GODSENT get Farlig, and I don't think he was an expensive player.
But if it is, let's just throw a number. Let's say it's 50,000 euros. That's a lot of money for someone who is essentially a stand-in, and that is what JUGi is for Astralis. He is a glorified stand-in.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I guess. Especially like I just think what I was talking about like 2 episodes ago before it kind of became official, like that thing where I was talking about like them wanting to get Esatag ahead of time before like his contract with Heroic ends, and that didn't happen, so they just had to step in and figure out somebody at the last minute. And YUGi was available, so I think that's what happened. And so yeah, I can see how they just wouldn't want to spend any sort of money on or just like look for anybody actually good and just use whoever is available. So I can see that logic for sure.
All right, so we got the thumbs. Let's just settle this one here. YUGi and Astralis, first impressions. You happy with it or you're not happy with it? All right.
Yeah, well, I just don't think it makes sense.
All right. Well, maybe they can work on getting Kristou from North, because that's where we're heading next. North, for those people who aren't aware, Kirby has taken a break. He is cited. I don't want to say burnout. I think I used that term last time.
This is legit health issues.
Yep.
So
talk us through it. Do we know what it is?
Yeah, I think he cited like chest pains and like some stuff like that. So it's
not like going on for a while.
I'm sick of playing this game. I literally have been like not feeling well. So that is completely green light to take a break on that terms.
And speaking of stats of this guy, like that's pretty awful. But then again, like North have been losing like really hard. So
yeah, but I was talking. I think I mentioned this on the last show. Messioso said when we had him on for a bit of an interview, kind of what his role was, and one of the things that they were focusing on, or one of the focuses of North, was kind of looking at the next generation of players. Obviously, we know they had North Academy previously, and now that Valve have decided to make the rules as murky as mud again for everybody, there's obviously a chance for that to be a direction for teams to go, or having bigger rosters on the same team. But this guy, look, officially as per HLTV.org, had one other team, AGF. He was there from August 2018 until April 2020. So that's whatever that is right there, I suppose. I don't think we're expecting a lot out of this kid, are we? They're kind of just scouting young talent and seeing if he can flourish into anything. Wouldn't expect this guy.
I don't think he was really on anybody's radar as like a big upcoming star or anything.
I took a look at because he is playing, as you said, he is playing in the Dust2DK Danish league. Not sure what it's called, but whatever. And he was like the second best KD player in the league. So, but that is a league where the best teams are like the
Soderberg,
like, not even Copenhagen Flames, like under Copenhagen Flames teams in Denmark. So at that level, he was standing out recently. So they picked him up. Also, just saying, as you said, Striker, like North have been losing. This guy has a rating of 0.67 in the DreamHack thing, but at the same but the second worst is Cajun B, 0.88. So that is kind of similar to what YUGi is to YUGi's rating to like Zipnix's rating. Yeah. So it's not that big of a deal, like that big of a difference when you think about
the problem is just like he's not going to step into Kirby's shoes. Like that's the problem. Like if you want to replace Kirby, you better have a star, and obviously that's not who this guy is. So it's like it's obvious that North are going to lose without Kirby, who was probably their most important player, I would say, maybe with AZ.
Well, I think that like AZ's definitely stepped up in a big okay. First of all, I don't know because I haven't watched all the games, but in some of the games I watched with this new kid, AZ, it looked like he was doing a lot more fragging. Now, I'm just checking the stats right here. Everybody on their team is negative. So obviously that's not the case as per the numbers, but that could be in a blowout loss. I'd have to take a little bit of a deeper look. But all in all, so yeah, they had 16-4 and 16-9 losses, 16-4, 16-8 losses. So those maps there are going to fucking tank anybody's stats, right? But I remember AZ having a little bit more impact, and I was hoping that other players would step up and fill those shoes. But I guess you're right. Like the only other player with that potential that we maybe haven't seen yet would be Gade, right? Cajun, we know that he's very serviceable. We know that MSL is serviceable on AWP, but they're not going to take over games, right? They're not going to be the star, like you're saying with Kirby. So is this another one that you think is just a short period of time, Prof? You think this is just they'll keep him around for a little while, or they'll try someone new, or they'll just wait till Kirby gets better? What do you reckon?
I mean, I'll still give the kid like another event, like maybe some smaller event online stuff to see if maybe he has a potential to do something a bit more, because look, he's playing his first game or second official game with a super big a Danish team against like Astralis or something like that. You can't really expect them to perform to a high level.
Like, he played and they beat G2, and he wasn't even the worst fragger. So that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess online results right now are all over the place.
I just want to say, like, I'm
quantify.
not writing this guy off as like a Notan 1D.
Okay.
Let's say that.
So he's got a bit more hope behind. All right, let's do the thumbs.
At least for a month.
Let's do the thumbs. How do we feel about Kristou and North?
I'm
gonna just say, like, for the situation, there's just.
All right.
Even though I think North maybe could have gone to something better, that like long term this could be a big issue. I don't know how long KRB is going to be out, but if you think about this guy playing their major qualifier things, then that is worrying.
All right. Well, hopefully it doesn't become the next.
You guys had to put some green in that whole picture where he was like literally all the red stats.
It's starting to look a bit like my stats page. Anyway, TRK joining MIBR. Let's just do the thumbs straight away, boys. I'm gonna hold up. Let me hide. There we go. All right. Before we even have the discussion, your initial impressions of TRK in MIBR.
I feel like it's like one of these roster moves. Like, I don't even know what's the point of this guy, or why is he brought in here?
Yep.
What is he supposed to do? It's like a Misuta in Vitality. It's just like filling up a spot on the roster, and that's it. Like, even if you look at his stats for the last like 6 months, he played like MDL and stuff like that, and his rating was 1.10. It's like there's nothing special about this guy, and at the same time, it's like just the classic MIBR change. What can you say about it anymore?
Striker, do you have much to say about this? Personally, I don't really care too much for talking about where MIBR are at the moment.
Not particularly. I agree with Prof in that, like, it's just another MIBR change that I just don't see how it's going to go anywhere else as compared to what we've seen so far with like their previous changes. So far, obviously, like, it's hard to say with when they've had probably like a couple of weeks with him, and the same applies for like probably JUGi as well, who hasn't been with the team for a long time, or Kristou, who's probably been slotted in really last minute, well, kind of last minute after they played with the coach, right, with JUGi. So it's like one of those things where you're going to have to wait until they actually get some playtime with the guys to see if these positions that he's in are actually going to be fine, if they're going to switch things around. It's always hard to say whether they have shit stats or at the beginning or not. It doesn't really have to mean anything at this point. So I just give it a couple of weeks before we look into it a little bit better.
Yeah,
I'll just say that there is a guy in the comments of the show calling us out because we said that we weren't going to talk about the MIBR roster changes anymore. True. And so we lied and we did it again. And
I don't know about roster change. I think we just said we wouldn't talk about MIBR.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
That's
in general.
Roster changes fall under MIBR.
Well, of course.
MIBR roster changes.
That's a bit of a special thing, right? At least that doesn't happen in like all the time. Then, like, I got surprised by the fact that Marin was there for half a year.
Yeah, it was like super long.
That's such a long time, dude. I would not have said that if I didn't know.
We did.
You keep talking. I'm looking for this tweet.
I want to bring out the stat thing that we did, the graph with the rankings a couple of days ago, and it's mind blowing how good they actually were with like Tarek and Stu. Like, their average
compared to this, right?
Compared to where they are now, it's like everyone was like, "Oh, this is so shit. They can't do anything." But now they wish they still had. They wish they stood in kept the international roster and stuff like that. They were literally like number 6 average ranking for I don't know how long the roster lasted, for like 6 months or so. That was pretty good. And then,
Lucas, can you bring up that tweet that Prof's just linked to you? Well, to the group, and bring that up for us. This is kind of exactly what I was looking for here. So just so you can give context for the audio viewer, this is a tweet that HLTV.org put out a couple days ago, and it was basically whack the image up. It was basically showing the decline in ranking for MIBR with all the changes. So I was actually one that someone did. It was a text-based tweet, and it had like all the change, like coach, player, like, and showing how soon it was between all. This does the same thing, obviously, with the graph that's up there. But it's just insane to think they've gone through so many changes in such a short period of time and had, 0 success? Would we go with
Yeah,
0?
more or less.
What have they done? Have they won anything?
The thing is, like,
They won the
MIBR
Zoltak
is just
thing.
one of those teams, like the same approach that we had to North for a long time, because they just nothing changed, right? Like no matter what they did, nothing really changed. Actually, they had the second place in Flashpoint, but I don't think that counts as success, especially considering the way they fucking lost the final to Mad Lions, where they were supposed to win. Let me say that. So that was like the closest they've gotten to success with Mayern anyway, and probably like for a while before that too. And obviously outside of Mad Lions, that entire tournament wasn't particularly competitive, right? So that's if that's the closest you have to a success, then you've probably not done particularly well.
All right, well, let's keep it moving. Let's go into the confirmed moves here, because like we said, we won't dwell on MIBR for too long. We're going to take a look right here at the hampus replaces Lekr on NIP as the first one. Now that actually caught the community as a bit of surprise, I would say. I don't think too many people were expecting anybody to go, because NIP have been on the up and up ever since they've added in Nork and Threat is back coaching, etc., etc. So, Prof, you were just rubbing your hands together. Why?
Look, as someone that has been bigging up Hampus for like a year and a half maybe now, like back from like season 3 of the show, been excited about the guy. I'm glad that the move happened, because even just when Gamer Legion disbanded their team, originally I thought everyone was released, but it wasn't the case. They had Campus, Scream, and maybe one other player that were contracted still. So what essentially happened was Gamer Legion and Campus, like the contract ran out, and Nip was smart enough to like jump in instantaneously, grab the player, sign him, and add him to the roster. Of course, a lot of drama popped up, but I think this is a great move. Like, they got the talent early. It's a role that they need on their team, because Lekr, as we all know, has been like a makeshift in-game leader and apparently hasn't been really doing the greatest job. And then when you think about the latest results, it's probably not Lekr calling, it is Threat, like from what we know. So we can't really base our judgment on do they need a roster change or not based on the results of a in-game leader that will not be in-game leading, maybe even after the summer when we have our first lands. So they're thinking long-term. They did a move that makes sense in terms of their roles, and it's good shit, right?
Well, look, I like it. I didn't mind the team before with Lekr. I thought they were in a very good direction there. But if Lekr isn't able to handle the load, or if Threat thinks that Hampus will do a better job, I prefer the team like this. NIP is one of the first teams at this level that is going to be the blueprint going forward. Now, Zonic has come on in and he got given the reins, but that team already existed. They already have a lot of their own history and shit together. These boys, they have a bit of history together. Some of them have played together, a lot of the young boys. But Threat is well and truly seeming like he's in charge of this team. And that's the direction that I want to see Counter-Strike go on. I want to see strong, respected coaches who have a good understanding of the game, with a good pedigree, and obviously they need to have good personal skills and all that kind of shit to get with the team, but the ones who can make these harsh calls, because unfortunately teams who are still in charge of their own destiny are the ones who are the ones that we don't want to talk about, because they're not making the right moves, because their problem is here. This is their problem, and they can't see past it. They don't know how to fix it. And because of that, there's no external factor which can tell them yes or no or maybe. And they can't reflect on it because it's game after event, after tournament, after prac day, after this, after that. And you don't get a chance to sit back and think. With a coach there, the coach isn't spending the day pracking. He's doing other bits and pieces. He can actually look at this from a very analytical point of view, and they go, yeah, this is a good or a bad call, or we need this or we don't need that. That kind of stuff is not what an in-game leader or a player in the team should be doing anymore. You're a player in the team. The coach knows the system. The coach knows the way it wants to go. We're still going to have strong in-game leaders, probably like in traditional sports, how you have strong captains on the field and that kind of shit. But that kind of relationship, I think, especially with the younger guns in the future, is going to just be, the coach is calling the shots. And I like it. Striker, where do you land?
No, I definitely agree with you on that part, just because, especially in NIP, where there's no real captain to be seen, right? Not even, I guess I don't know Hampus particularly well in this case, so I don't know how he is in particular, if he is like a strong leader type or anything like that. But obviously, like in the previous iteration. I don't think Lekro was a particularly strong captain or anything like that, like a big personality to take over in that team. So it has to come from like an outside perspective, right? From somebody like a Threat, who's obviously very well respected as a former game leader and as a coach for a long time now. So I think from everything from this point of view kind of makes sense. And if hampus is a bit more strategically inclined than Lekro was, or even like in terms of being a captain, I think it's probably going to work out for the better.
Like my only question mark about this roster move is why Twist wasn't on the chopping block, and this is something that from the outside I don't understand, but like Threat commands some like enough respect in me that I think it probably there is a good reason why he decided to remove Lekro instead of Twist. But like looking at the stats, Twist as the mostly main opper who could be replaced by Nock in that role made sense for me for him to go out. And Lekro had like good stats for the last month or so when we presume he wasn't calling. So that's the only thing that I would have done, like from an outsider point of view. But yeah, other than that, I really agree with the move. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of drama about it regarding like the players not being involved in the decision making. You talked about it as well. Then the whole PETA interview with DK came out, and I did a tweet today. I said like that was the most self-damning thing I read since the Jordy Roy interview about Blast, because in that PETA essentially goes through all of the roster changes that they did since first adding Dennis instead of Exist, which wasn't his move. That was like the CEOs or whatever. And then everything else, PETA was the coach, and he explained everything that they did, adding Drake in, removing Drake, and Dennis coming in, being the in-game leader, then moving it to Lekro. And then you see how everything failed for such a long time. And if that is what happens when the player and the coach controls the roster or whatever, then what else can you do than remove the coach, get a new one, and take away the power from the players? Because they did not want Golden to stay when they needed an in-game leader. Instead, they brought in Twist, so Forest didn't have to opt. And then Forest 2 months later left for Dignitas. So that is like, you literally fucked yourself there. So, and now Golden is of course in Fnatic. So
yeah, look, I think the NIP has been a mess since they kept the legends, right? Like, since they started throwing one away and then throwing another one away and then throwing another one away, just holding on to that because of the name value, which is what they obviously tried to do for a long period of time there, and I completely understand it. It's not like they were terrible. You know, they still had events where they were able to be very competitive. We go back, IEM Oakland, was it 2017? Back-to-back years, right? They won Oakland. Like, they're still winning like events with those guys there. So I kind of get how it's taken so long, but NIP as a legendary name within Swedish Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike as a whole probably needed a bit of a reboot, and I think this is the direction that they're going to be going with this. And hopefully things start to pick up for them, because NIP is one of the names, unfortunately, along the lines with Virtus Pro. I don't think we'll ever get them back to the former glory, where having those names doing well in Counter-Strike is good for Counter-Strike because it's a household name, right? All right, let's keep moving. Olof, he's taken a break, and let me try this. We're gonna go with Bymas, like as in a bee, like buzzing around.
Bymas, I guess.
Bymas
is what I've heard. Bymas.
Okay, well I can.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's actually correct. I've never actually heard anybody else say it. Like anybody, I don't know what you call it. Whatever, trustworthy.
Pronouncing it.
Yeah, I didn't hear anybody from the Baltics pronounce it before or anything. So who the fuck knows? But that's my assumption.
Now I'll have to talk to Yanko and suss it out, because unfortunately, FaZe. Now, if somebody in chat has this command, or if you guys have it, there is a command that you guys can put in your server so that no one can see who's in the server. It's just like there's no server info. So
I'm gonna repeat what I said in chat. Like the next step for FaZe is just to put out a picture where like Bymas is somewhere like in the reflection in a mirror or anything like that, like clearly visible on a picture, and like we've come full circle with the full Cold Zero thing.
It's great. It's really good. But the fact is, they were practicing with him today, and they start their DreamHack tournament tomorrow. And I'm 99.9% sure, unless Yanko wants to play, that he'll be playing. So let's talk about the Olof situation first. Now, I'm going to present something. and you guys are going to scoff, and then I'm going to present something else, and then you guys are going to be like, oh. Now, I was thinking about this today. Not about Olof, about the games that I've been watching of Counter-Strike lately when I was working on the Road to Rio and Pro League. Now, for those people who aren't familiar with what I do on an everyday kind of job, I'm normally just doing the analysis. So I sit there and I watch and I make some notes and I look for pivot rounds, or I look for good performances. I look for those bits and pieces. You're not really following the flow of the game in the same way as you are when you're casting, because when you're casting, you're being directed of what you're watching, so it's much harder to constantly see that overview. I get certain tools when I'm analyzing that are different to when I was casting, and I'm watching the game from a different perspective. So I know that seems silly. You guys are like, aren't you analyzing the same game that watching? I am. But
no, I totally get that, honestly.
Yeah. So, and I'm also not looking at numbers of players as much. Now, so when I thought, oh, Olof, he's down on himself, he's stepping back, he said he's had some bad performances, I was like, well, he hasn't been playing great, but they swapped him out of a bunch of roles. The games I've been watching, FaZe have looked better as a team. Brokey's looking good. Nico and Cold can have some really good games. I've seen Olof pop off a couple times. Reigns popped off a couple times. I didn't think it was that bad from the eye test. But then I went and I looked at his stats and I was like, holy shit, like there is a lot of red here. Like there's a lot more red than what I'd be expecting a FaZe clan, who right now I probably consider them as like a top 5 team, right? Like in the European realms, because obviously we can't include the North American squads in this conversation right now. As I consider them like a pretty good team. Their approach to their game, their star players. I think the biggest issue for FaZe was them closing. So like I didn't really put it down to one player. I didn't sit there and think, oh, this guy is the reason they're not winning games. But if Olof feels that he's not playing, he doesn't feel like, that he can contribute at 100% right now, that's another hugely honorable decision, I think, to go, yeah, I need a break, I need some time off, I need it, because FaZe in my mind are on like the brink of going from really looking really good to being like marauders, just destroying teams. I don't know if you think this is a good move, Striker. Do you think he's made the right call?
Well, I think it makes sense from the point of view, if you think about it. You were talking about the role changes, right? But they were actually in benefit of him, not just Brokey, right, who went to like a more fitting role to him. It's just Olof went back to his like lurking role and stuff like that, and every change was to his benefit in the recent times, at least. Like the more they shifted opping towards Brokey, the more Olof got to do whatever he basically did almost his entire career, right? So from that perspective, I can see how, even if that doesn't help you individually, it's probably not the problem, right? You're probably looking at something else. So I think from that perspective, it definitely makes sense for him to take a break if he doesn't think he can improve individually without it, or just get back on his feet. So yeah, I agree with that. Kind of good on him to recognize it, I guess, and just like say, okay, let's stop this before it's too late, right?
Do we think he'll be back, Prof?
That's a good question.
This is his third break, right? And he's always been back within like a couple of months or 3 months or something. Last time when he took that break 2 years ago, he was back within 3 months. Same way when he had that injury, he was back within 2 months. And always he came back like in decent form. So I don't see why he wouldn't. It's just it's not going to be in FaZe, I don't think.
Yeah, I also don't think it's going to be in FaZe. Like, especially because FaZe won't afford to go through the same thing they did last time when Olof was out, which was stand in to we don't know what the fuck is it, maybe looking for a player, unable to find a player they want, and all of that. So I think they will be on the lookout to sign someone permanently as soon as possible, and that just go into the grind. So I think FaZe is out of the question completely.
Just quickly on that, do we think that this whole Astralis fad that they're trying to start with the 6, 7, 8, 12, 34-man rosters, whatever it might be, do we think that might start sticking? Because really, if Olof goes for like 2 or 3 months or whatever, and then he comes back and he's like, hey guys, like I'm back and I want to perform, and he's hungry again, and like, look, we got this new kid, he's pretty sick, we'll keep you as our 6th man, we'll still use you in some tournaments or whatever, you can stream, you can do this, you can do that, we'll still pay you whatever. Do you think like that? I don't know. First of all, we don't know if Olof would want to do something like that. He might want to just get straight back in the server and start fucking wrecking heads. But do you think that's a possibility? Like, is that even anything that could be floated as a thought?
I don't think with FaZe's experience of these roster moves and just like swapping people in and out, I don't think that's something that's on their minds, to be honest.
Okay, and what do you guys feel? Actually, Prof, what do you say to people at home who are like, Lekro should join, Alex should join, an in-game leader who is no longer in a team should join? What do you say to those people?
I mean, there is a case to be made for any of those players. It's not like some totally dumb idea just because like, oh, Scream is a free agent, he should join Fnatic or whatever. Of course, he stood in for Fnatic at one event, so whatever. I like all of these make sense on the like a base level to some degree. But first of all, like Lekro joining as an in-game leader won't happen because he wasn't able to in-game lead an NIP. Then you won't be able to in-game lead fucking NeEko. That won't happen. Maybe as a support player of some sort, that maybe could make sense. But at the same time, maybe he doesn't want to do that anymore. Maybe he wants to go and do some like more star stuff. So then he'd have to look elsewhere, maybe somewhere in the Swedish scene, which isn't Fnatic and isn't NIP. So maybe in Dignitas. I don't know. And then Alex, the whole Alex thing is like, I don't even know what to say about it.
Doesn't make sense, right?
Like what I said, someone put it on Twitter as well. Like if you leave a team with ZywOo because it's too much travel, then you won't be like joining FaZe, which are in the same leagues as they are. Of course, there is the asterisk of the corona being like now being a thing, so you don't have that much travel. But like in 6 months or whatever, we'll go back to the schedule. And I don't see why FaZe would sign him for like a 6-month period just so he can fuck off when they actually need him to play on LAN.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Also, in terms of Lekro or anybody of that stature who wasn't necessarily a winner or anything like that, I feel like FaZe would only bring in somebody who they really respect. So like an Olaf, like a legend of the game, you know, something like that. Or somebody new, like a Bymas, you know, somebody completely unproven, just some like potentially like a massive upgrade in firepower down the line, you know, in a couple of months when that guy just gets acclimated. They're not going to get a guy in like Lekro who has just been like on the top 10 kind of level for a long time and hasn't really shown like signs of improvement
Here's a
or
fun
anything
fact.
like that.
Lekro did not win a single tournament with NIP.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
In almost 2 years.
Bloody hell. Okay.
Yeah, they had a couple of second places, but they never won.
Well, this is the new boy. This is the guy who, as far as I'm concerned, will be playing for FaZe tomorrow. I could be wrong. Maybe something will crop up. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe I'll look like a fucking idiot. But all signs point to this boy, Bymas, the B-man, Buzzy boy.
Jeez,
16
we're starting
year old.
something really dangerous.
Yeah, no, we need nicknames. We need nicknames for players. So this kid, 16. Ladies and gentlemen, NeEko played with him in FPL, said he was pretty good. So if NeEko plays an FPL with you and says you're pretty good, that's probably all you need, right? Like, I'm being a little bit facetious, but seriously, so he's from Lithuania.
By the way, like just to give some context on this, I was the one who did that top 20 interview, and I did it with him on audio just because he didn't have much time at the time. I think there was like they had some tournaments to play or something like that around that time, so we had to do it audio just so he doesn't have to spend too much time on typing it out and stuff. And when we got to this question, he literally at first he asked like how bold do I go? And I'm like, you've been through this. Like nobody who we just like expect to get picked up in a month by like a top team, it should be like somebody reasonably unknown, you know? And he literally like the first name that came out of his mouth within 5 seconds was this guy. He didn't have to think about it for a long time.
Okay. Well, someone in chat just said that his last name directly translates to pepper. So that's pretty cool too. So not only is the B-boy, he's got some pepper in his step, and NeEko, as Striker's just said, was one of the first names off the list. So the fact that they're able to turn this around this quickly with him, and let's be honest, Brokey is the only inexperienced member in the team other than this new kid, right? So having coldzera, NeEko, and Rain as the 3 individuals around you with Yanko there to like mentor you and help you and that kind of stuff, that's pretty fucking good. So they have these 2 young kids. They already have 2 superstars in NeEko and Cold. Like it's almost like what's going to happen is as NeEko and Cold, if this team stays there for a long time, obviously I'm projecting in the future here, but like if NeEko and Cold start to decline and these 2 kids keep going like up, assuming like because Brokey's looking better and better every time I see the kid play, that could be fucking mental. Right, these are the kids. You're teaching the kids all the stuff, so when they get a little bit old, they can take the back seat, be the supportive players, and the kids can take over. But who knows if this? And
NeEko and Cole are fucking 23 and 25, and they've been at the top of the game already. So it's like
that's very true.
I mean, Nico was a Bymas, literally. He was a 16-year-old kid or whatever. I mean, he was better than Bymas, a lot better. But you get what my point.
Yeah,
he went down to the pro scene with 16, so that's the thing. And it's cool. It's a cool factor that both Brokey and Bymas are from like the same region, obviously not the same country, but I guess they know each other. So that's like a support network within the team when they're getting bullied by all the older guys in the locker room, you know, so they can support each other a bit and go through the rough periods.
By the way, coming back to that whole in-game leadership thing, right? People suggesting in-game leaders for FaZe. I feel like Nico is just kind of set on this, like, I'm just going to be an in-game leader. I don't think he has that mentality anymore where he just thinks, okay, whenever somebody actually really good as an in-game leader pops around, we're going to get him. I think he's just actually made that decision in his head, saying, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to become an in-game leader. It's even something that he said in that top 20 interview that we were talking about earlier, where he was just saying, I just decided that I'm going to become the best fucking game leader in the world. And so from that point of view, I also don't think they would consider in-game leaders unless it really was like an insane opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, like theoretically, Alex would be a perfect fit for them. Sure, like I feel like mentality-wise, like personality, he could fit into that. But it's just like not inability. He just doesn't want to.
Personality-wise, he wouldn't fit in with that team personality-wise. I don't think. Like you got a bunch of dudes who are outgoing who. Like if you look at FaZe, you look at them, they look like party boys, right?
Party boys, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Alex is not a party boy. Alex doesn't want to travel. Alex ain't a party boy. Alex is a guy who in interviews doesn't say a lot, and whether that's because he doesn't want to say a lot.
He does say a lot.
Maybe to you guys, but on broadcast he doesn't say fuck all. But that's
he actually is fairly like one of those people who will tell you something not necessarily, you know, that's
a couple of memorable
he's had like those whole ZywOo moments where he says, I just don't get the whole thing about people like banging on us being all shit and ZywOo being like the savior or anything. We just support him and shit like that.
Unfortunately for Alex, he was the second best player in that team. It was him and ZywOo. So it's like, unfortunately for him, like it was a shit situation. No wonder he was stressed as fuck. I don't blame him. That must have been a nightmare to try and make that thing work right there. Anyway, let's keep it moving. We're ticking through the show. We're going to go on to Farlig joining GODSENT, and Maikelele's hit the bench. Now, I know we're all excited for Maikelele's story. He's going to be releasing that on YouTube. The no chance to GODSENT. Obviously, there's a few bits and pieces gone on there, so we'll get to find out what all happened. But Farlig joining GODSENT. Now, if you aren't familiar with Farlig, he was playing for Copenhagen Flames.
Yep.
And he played in the Road to Rio, and he turned some heads. He definitely turned my head, and he definitely turned the heads of people at GODSENT because he's been picked up, he's been put on that roster, and as a young AWPer, he looked fucking sick in Road to Rio. Like, he looked like a kid who just knew everything. That I was watching him and I was going, holy shit, like if he's not cheating, he's fucking great. And obviously I don't think he's cheating, that's just me being a little bit facetious.
Hello, Vac sucks.
but look, like I saw some of his rounds, his clutch potential. He was very quick with the AWP. And Maikelele on certain maps, he admitted that he struggled AWPing on certain maps, like Vertigo and Nuke. I think were ones that he said it was hard for him to AWP on.
Those are potentially two of GODSENT's like better maps.
Yeah,
like when you think about them, those are some of the and they don't play Mirage, which is like an op heavy map, maybe because of that reason as well. I don't know. So obviously, like I'll just stand in Maikelele's defense for a bit.
Okay.
Even though I'm not a Maikelele fan, like even back when he was in NIP and I was probably an NIP fanboy at that time, like I was like, I don't really like this guy. It's kind of like, oh, everything's off about him. But the amount of shit that he's getting from the community is just like fucking unreal. Starting from the like super toxic stuff, which like talking to people now or like even the last 2 years, no one calls him toxic. Maybe they don't like his energy or whatever, but that's not like being toxic. Just like personality don't mesh, and that's fine. Yeah. And then the whole thing about like being a flat earther, because he said like that. Okay, he did like imply some weird stuff, but he didn't say anything about the Earth being flat. He just said.
I mean, that's kind of a running joke. I don't think that's like.
But it's kind of fucked. Like that someone is literally every time he gets mentioned, people just call him a flat earther. He said like the moon landing was potentially fake, which is completely a different thing because it doesn't really change everything about how the world works and everything we know about physics and shit like that. So it's like, it's okay, maybe we
now
don't
you're
agree
gonna get
with
all
it.
that hate for being a flat earther.
But like, it's all the fucking time, and then it's like all of this is like compounding on him. It's like, chill. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
he just plays CS.
He's a nice dude. This is the thing. We all say stupid shit. You know, some people get paid to say stupid shit. Some people just say stupid shit. But like the thing is, the community will grab anything that they can with people, right? That's unfortunately the way it goes. That is just unfortunately the way it goes. But here's a problem with that GODSENT team before this roster change came in. Maikelele was 29. Zen's 28.
Kristou.
Kristal's got to be at least 26.
26.
Yeah.
26.
Sticker is like also...
Sticker is pretty young
24, 25, I think.
24.
But
yeah, they were one of the oldest like top 30 teams.
Exactly, and that right there with that team, I think that that Maiden's really good. I think that he's a very good player. Fills a lot of different roles. Is very versatile. I think that Zen is one of those guys as well. He looks like he fills a lot of the undesirables, a lot of gaps. Kristou, you need an in-game leader, and we heard from Pronax on last time's show that they got rid of him, and then they realized 2 days later that they needed him. If there is another player to go in the future, you would assume it would be Kristou in the similar as like a Hunden situation with Mad Lions. But the Farlig replacing Maikelele is the one that makes the most sense. Stiko is another great player. I think Stiko
has had a redemption story, I feel like, in this team, kind of.
But he was a star before he joined mouz. That's the thing that I think people forgot, right? Is like he was more of a star role before he joined the mouz Sports roster when he was with, what's that motherfucker's name? Zero? Was it Zero?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm going right back. Holy shit, I've just gone into NFL.
Well, no, in Hellraisers he was kind of a support player, though.
Okay, well, I mustn't remember it very well then. But I thought he was.
No, but he was the star,
bragging.
like in Czech teams and all that stuff. Like he was like he was the best player, and probably even over Oscar at some point.
Okay.
So, in Slovakia, Czech and Slovakia, we just have like combined scene. But at one point in like 2015, 2014, he probably was better than Oscar. So, skill wise, which is just something like insane to think about.
I don't think we ever had a player to go just like his rating, what it was in mouz Sports and at the end of mouz Sports to what it is now. Like do we have a player that went that much up, like literally from 0.9 ratings to like 1.1?
Well, you also have to think about how, I don't know, probably 0.959 something.
Because I would assume that his might have gone up a little bit his time in Dignitas, but I suppose because like there's a lot more kills available now.
What are we talking about?
Get right.
No, it's gone a bit
but
up.
This is like a very short period for Get Right.
Yeah,
like,
it's uncomparable
to like to Stiko. Like if Get Right holds this up, then yeah, this is like some good shit. Similar level, I'd say.
Okay, so
yeah, but you have to think about how like the competitive, I guess the teams that they play against this time, right?
Yes.
Just because obviously GODSENT, No Chance, stuff like that. They're mostly playing against like similar level teams, top 30 teams, not the top 10 that Stiko used to play against. So that's also going to make a pretty big difference,
But like even when he plays like these beer events, it's like a similar thing. It's not like he falls off.
True.
So.
That's true.
So let's do this. What do you think about Farlig joining GODSENT? Striker, do you think it's a good move?
I love it, honestly, just because we have, just look at fucking almost every team towards the top, right? Every single team or almost every single team there has a star opper that the team is kind of built around. Like obviously like the biggest examples of that would be Navi and Vitality, but even when you look at it like Astralis, Device just doesn't necessarily like take up a lot of space, but he is undoubtedly like the team's star. Woxic in mouz Sports, like all of these teams, even Kenny's in G2 to an extent, like all of these teams have like oppers at their forefront, and that's just become kind of, well, not become, it's been a meta for a long time, and we've seen that oppers that don't have a lot of impact, like an MSL or something, just don't really work, right? They can't bring you to like a top 5 level or anything like that. You probably have to have a decent opera to get there, unless you're a Fnatic and you just like break all like all standards that the game has. But like nobody else has really done that without having like a really top tier opera. So I feel like that's a move that you always have to consider.
Yeah, it just made complete sense. Like we were talking about it even before the Pronax show, like jokingly, get this player. And it happened, and not because
he did admit that they were like looking at him at the time, and it was interesting to see that like 2 weeks later he's actually signed.
Yeah, and that happened also like pretty fast from even what Maikelele said publicly. It was like a super fast talking, okay, set the deal, Maikelele's benched, then this guy is coming in. So they'll also go into these matches. They're playing FaZe, right? That's the first game with
they are playing
with
FaZe,
like
yeah.
one or 2 days of practice with a new guy, but it.
I mean, it's gonna be the same with FaZe, though.
What?
It's gonna be the same with FaZe.
Yeah, well, both teams will only have 1 or 2 days practice with the new boys, right?
I'm just thinking about when you look at like this upgrade, like the whole like top 20, top 30 even at the moment is like super sick. Like,
do you think
most of these teams make a lot of sense? Like when you look at the teams that are like the complexities or the OGs, which are not a top 10 team contender at all. These teams have sick players, like good star players, like in-game leaders, supportive. Like most of these teams make a lot of sense and can take maps and series off of the top 5 even. Like we just saw it today. Of course, mouz person shit form, but whatever. Like complexity is doing pretty well. It's just I feel like it's super competitive for the whole top 30 even nowadays.
I've just linked Lucas the rankings for the, well, obviously it's going to change tomorrow, right? But the way it is right now. So like Astralis, obviously we know the situation there with the whole JUGi thing. That's whatever. Na'Vi, like Na'Vi haven't impressed me in some time. Like ever since Katowice, I don't think whatever's going on there.
You have to put it in context. Like of course for Na'Vi, which we expect to win events all the time, then it's not impressive.
So scroll down. Lucas, what we want to look at here is like towards the bottom, I suppose. You bang on, I guess. Like Spirit are threatening at times. Like even you're right. Heretics, even Ents are on the up and up. Cloud9 don't seem like a bad team anymore. You're right. It feels like a lot of these teams are starting to head in a very good direction, not down. Like a lot of them feel like they're making good steps. Like Harvard, for example, I haven't watched a lot of them. I can't really comment too much about those guys.
They play solid though.
The rest of these guys I've watched quite a lot of. The rest of these teams I've seen a significant amount of. So yeah, okay. I see where you come with that. I could agree with that sentiment for sure.
I haven't seen Hurt. Like out of these teams, I actually haven't seen the CIS teams play the most. I guess Windstrike and Hard Legion are just 2 teams that I actually don't remember watching play a game in a while. I've heard from like the Na'Vi game that I think I saw with Hard Legion.
Pretty good.
Alien's pretty good, yeah. A Hobbit seems to be playing better. Which is even Mo with Simon Gaming, like they didn't even look terrible. I know it was domestic, but they looked all right. Let's keep it going. We'll go to CI. We're talking about Buster. He's taking a break as well. So I didn't read the Buster situation. Is this health or is this burnout or is this needing a break? What is this?
It looks like just some sort of a break. I'm not sure if it was forced by the organization or not. It doesn't seem so. And Overdrive, who kind of leaked this move ahead of time as well, said that they're kind of looking to get Buster back for Sanji, and then eventually maybe look at Adren's future as well. So that's kind of the situation.
Or Jerry, or get someone, because Kick It, Jame, and Buster as like 3 players, like with potential, are too good to waste. But this new kid, YEKINDAR, I got to watch him. He was playing for previously.
Rosto?
Yeah. And I thought that he was pretty good. They would literally send him in first to just kill as many people as he could, so they could win rounds. Like that's what some of the strats look like for those guys. And I was like, well, this guy can fuck, but the rest of the team can't. Like because doing the CIS games a couple of nights, it was really strange to see the play style, and I kind of learnt where Boomage got some of his dumb ideas from, right? But like but you definitely see it. Like CIS teams on Inferno, they play sandbags. They actually play sandbags. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But
this is just reminding me of the conversation we had. Was it NBK who said like, let's just fuck, that kind of phrase?
Yeah.
But there was just the whole thing in his team.
What do you guys think about this initial thing? Obviously, if Buster needs time away, like we all know, you can take your time away. But do you think they should have been more aggressive now? Like if you're going to bring Buster back later, why not get rid of Sanji now and bring in another guy? Like if you're going to have to change things up eventually, why not be a little bit more audacious or
maybe they're just looking into those things still, trying to log down a player or something like that, just doing one by one. Potentially that's probably what I would assume is happening, especially with what Overdrive said that was in their plans. So It just
But
makes sense for me.
the coach went as well, right?
No, it's just a secondary one.
But there was rumored. It's a secondary one. Okay.
No, there's like they added another one, and then like an analytical guy. I don't know either of them particularly much. They're just like old players back from 1.6. That's pretty much all I know.
I thought that I read from some of the Overdrive headlines that Little made a tweet that I didn't understand because I translated it from Russian.
Yeah, I think it just meant that he didn't understand like how they suddenly got a spot on this team, that they were probably out of the scene for a long time and just like didn't really have. There was no reason for them to get this spot, so I guess that's the problem. I don't know. That's how I understood it. Maybe the translation is wrong. I didn't actually have anybody else try to translate it for me, so I'm just
It's a guess.
I was keeping an eye on YEKINDAR for like 6 months now or something like that, and also interestingly, another like Baltic player being signed. So Brocky, YEKINDAR, and Bymas potentially. We don't know, but it's most likely going to happen with FaZe. There's a stat line. He had like 2 events. Of course, not the highest tier, but DreamHack Delhi Invitational, which was like tier 3, tier 4 teams, and then the
Didn't he destroy that event completely? By the way,
those 2 events, he had 1.39 rating, which is ridiculous. And he was playing against like Aristocracy and then some other like maybe more shit teams, and not a lot of maps or anything. But overall, his rating has been like 1.12, and as Sponge described at the beginning, he's like an entry fragger for the team, which you don't expect to like. Even if he's carrying, he's not going to be like super carrying. Like if you have like a 1.7 rating or whatever, that is insane for a guy that's going in first. So a lot of potential, and glad he is picked up. I think Verse Pro needed someone new, someone fresh. I just don't know how it's going to fit into everything, because like, I don't know, like Kicker did a lot of these, like, maybe you can call it like good entry, not good, but like setup entry fragging and not setup entry fragging. Because if you're running through a smoke without a flash, that's going to be Sanji, of course. Yep. But then if you're doing an execute with like 5 smokes and like 5 flashes and 3 molotovs, that's going to be Kicker going in first. So maybe then that's going to be a bit of a clash for Rivs Pro. But other than that, like the raw talent is here, so he's going to do well. I don't have a doubt about it.
All right. Well, let's keep it moving, because we're going to rank all these roster changes too. So we're going to talk about, well, Neo and TaZ, they're back together. Now, like every good couple, Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, they always reunite. You know, they always come back together. Now, these boys are back, and what they've done is they've grabbed 3 players. Is Stomp one of them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so Stomp I remember from, I'm pretty sure he played in one of the Asus ROG events a couple years ago on Isaac's team. But yeah, they've basically grabbed 3 more younger guns from the Polish scene, and I guess they're going to do the best that they can with this. Now, I don't know, but I'm going to make this comment.
Classic Chad.
Well, that's basically
I don't
what
know,
I do
but I'm going
every
to make
day.
this comment sounds like.
But I don't think that TaZ and Neo expect they can be one of the best Counter-Strike teams in the world again. However, I think that they do know that they can do is within their own country, they are superstars in the Counter-Strike world. They can help the talent of tomorrow while still having careers. So like the way that I look at this is, if you were like an international superstar football player, then you went over to play in like the Premier League, and then eventually you went back to your home country when you were old and you couldn't really play anymore, and you played and you gave some of the youngsters some advice and shit, and you got paid a decent amount of money to do it. Why the fuck not?
Because you also brought in fans because they love you because of your old like history and class as a player and stuff like that. So that's essentially what they are doing. Like no one is going to be paying Stomp. I mean, someone is going to be paying, but because in Poland everyone is a fucking salaried pro player for like €1,000 or whatever they need to live there. But as well as a lot of Eastern European countries, including mine. So so then you have Neo and TaZ on a team, then of course it's easier to get a sponsorship and actually get people to watch the team, and that the sponsorship makes sense. So I read an interview with him, also like Google translated from Polish, so not completely accurate, but the sentiment was something along the lines of, this is our opportunity to build something, to like pass on the knowledge, to build something, to like, it's not about only winning. Like they did their share of winning, a lot of it. They're legends in CSGO and CS in general. and now they want to do like what they still can do. Like, what is there to do? How do you find like a new goal in CS? And I feel like what you described is exactly what they actually want to accomplish.
And I think there's a lot to that, right? Because I think if you are a newer viewer, then you won't give these guys the respect that they deserve. But if you are somebody who's been involved in Counter-Strike or in CSGO since the beginning, you will know that these guys were there at the ground floor. You will know the amount of bullshit that unfortunately they had to go through with the changing of organizations in the 1.6 days, with all that kind of stuff, right? And yeah, that's why with these guys, especially for them, like it sucks the way that VP all kind of went down, and obviously read Cuban's interview with HLTV.org if you want a little bit more right there. But like all those bits and pieces, when you consider it, it's good that they still have the drive to want to compete and like actually give something back, and that's still a goal of theirs. Because if it was many other people and they went through the ups and downs that these guys did, they'd probably either be jaded as fuck and not want to do anything to help anybody, or you know, they just have made enough money and they can walk away happy. But these guys, like, obviously they want to keep looking after the scene, and Counter-Strike's been a big part of their life, and I hope that they find success in whatever venture that is.
Just one thing to add on before we finish this off. Someone wrote in chat, and I remember that's also a thing. They invested their own money as well into this project. So it's not like they're playing around with someone else's cash. So they did literally put their money into this, so they want to do it. So it's not something to just a cash grab or something like that.
Respect. All right, cool. Let's keep it moving into the rumors. Now, Striker, I know that you're a massive fan of Tigers.
Okay.
And, well, Tiger is a team from Mongolia with a player called Urkast. And they're apparently in talks with getting smooya and Snappi. Now, I don't know which world they think they're living in, but I'm pretty sure we're in 2020 and coronavirus exists, right?
From what I understand, this team would play in Europe.
What? Sorry, what? We couldn't get Urkast a visa to stay in Australia. How are we getting the motherfucker a visa in Europe?
Maybe you get some better country that's more like liberal with their visas.
Like Ukraine or something, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
A nicer country, not better country.
Okay.
I mean, let's be real, Australia is pretty
we don't
strict
let
on the visa
anyone
stuff.
in. Everyone stay they don't even let me in. I can't even go home if I wanted to. But that's
Yeah,
not really the point.
I had the same questions, and from what I heard, they were gonna, like, the Mongolian guys were gonna move to Europe and play there.
Okay, so they're going to keep Urkast, obviously, and then
just the trio, the known trio, like Dobu, Cabal, Urkast.
Yeah. So they're winning at the moment in Asia. That seems pretty crazy to like go for the change with smooya and Snappi. Now, if they're going to go to Europe, it makes so much more sense. If I was Snappi and smooya, no offense to Mongolia, I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but there's no way in the world that I would leave the United Kingdom or Denmark for going somewhere in Asia. Like, there's no way in the world that I would do that, right? So if they're going to move to Europe, then sure, that makes a little bit more sense. Can maybe start to get around that. But how are they going to compete? Like, that's in Asia, it's fine. You can go and you can beat up on Vici and Tyloo and fucking, what is it, BTRG and all those fucking names. You can go and beat up on all those guys. But in Europe, it's going to be so much harder. Like, fuck, where are they even going to start? I don't even...
Who the fuck knows, right?
Fucking hell. I don't know. Like, I think it's an audacious play. I was thinking it'd be really good to have Snappi in-game leading in Asia, because he could actually help with the massive problem in Asia, which is their approach to their game. If he could get it to Urkast, the Urkast boys...
The problem is getting the information across is kind of a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, like, even if you're just there and you're practicing against other teams, I think that is something that can spread throughout the region. Like, in theory, if Snappi was there and they were practicing the Tyloos and whoever BTRGs, then they see how they play, and of course they're gonna have more respect for Snappi, considering he is like Danish in-game leader from the long line of Danish in-game leaders, bringing some stuff. Then it's gonna be like, naturally stuff is just gonna spread in the region. But that's not gonna happen, except maybe for some boot camps or whatever qualifiers for minors or some stuff that they have to do in Asia. But what you're saying, they did win the Road to Rio tournament, and they also won like a Weibo Cup or something, where all of the top teams were again. with this old lineup, with the full Mongolian lineup. And there was an interview also with the coach or something, where they said, like, even though things are going well, they have plans made, and they're going to be sticking to those plans regardless of the results, because they're aware that, like, whatever, either the results aren't going to be like something they can keep up, or they think it's an outlier or something like that. So they're going to be like doing changes, even though it's still fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, I'm going to
look either.
I want to get to the rankings here, and I have to go because I got to go to bed because I got to get up early tomorrow. But we'll quickly jump into the Alex Ponder's return. He did a podcast with Duncan recently where he made comment about returning to play, but still didn't want to have the crazy travel schedule. Do we think anybody, striker, would take a risk on him to pick him up as in-game leader, knowing that he's not
I have a perfect
travel?
I have a perfect team for him, especially considering the comments that he made. Contact.
Okay, yeah, they're a fucking mess right now.
First of all, it's technically a French organization.
Okay.
Second of all, it's a Flashpoint team, isn't part of all those big leagues, you know, as in doesn't have a massive schedule or anything. So Alex specifically said like probably a Flashpoint team would be ideal because of these things, exactly, because they are now part of Blast and ESL at the same time. So that obviously takes away from a lot of the schedule. And in general, it just makes perfect sense, right? Emmy is just like the classic player tuner turned coach turned player, just like in that limbo situation where he's probably going to get cut the first chance he gets for a better in-game leader. So there's immediately a spot there for an in-game leader. And the whole roster just makes sense. They already speak English. He obviously speaks English, so has a good mind for the game. I just don't see a downside.
I think the biggest issue there is that it requires Contact to actually acknowledge they have a CSGO team and then talk to a guy and sign contracts and everything. So I think that's out of the window, though.
So this is the roster right here for everybody playing at home. Emmy's the man right there that we're talking about replacing. He was actually coaching Crazy, right? When they were I think Letney probably has to go as well. You can keep Otto, Ships, and Esperanto, add an Alex, and get another good fragger, because I think Otto, Ships, and Esperanto are actually all pretty good. Ships.
That trio is pretty fucking sick. Like they should not be as bad as they are. I don't know where they're even ranked. Like 50th or
41
something.
it says now.
Fuck. Okay, so yeah, look, that's actually a good call right there, the Alex one. That would make a lot of sense. And if they could find another fragger, probably, you know, actually get a lot done, because that is Otto, Ships, and Esperanto have all shown very, very good promise in the past. Now, let's keep going. We're going to move into the rank. Now,
by the way, another option would be GODSENT, right?
Yes, but at the same time, I think GODSENT want to get on the tier 1 circuit. I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to be. Someone just said Nuki as potentially a fifth for that team. That's not a bad shout. Secondary AWPer. Yeah, secondary AWPer. Sure. Seems pretty flexible. He's a good role player. All right, Lucas, we're going to get stuck into this, mate. We're ordering the changes from best to worst. Now, Prof's done us up a lovely little Google document here, I believe. So I think we can bring this one up. Now, what we want to do, obviously, just talk through a lot of these roster changes. Are we doing all of them, the rumored ones as well, Prof, or just the ones you've listed here?
I think like what would you add from the rumored ones?
Fuck, my eyesight's getting terrible. Now let's go with these. Let's go. Yeah. This makes the most sense. And then the next one is where we can have some. Okay, so the worst out of all of these. Let's start there.
Surely it has to be
YUGi to Astralis.
It has to be the bottom two, yeah.
And then what?
Obviously, like these two, the problem with these two is just that those were not necessarily needed changes. You know, it was just like something that had to happen probably.
Let's maybe we can maybe phrase it somehow that it makes most sense. We can just say moves we like or dislike the most. It doesn't have to be like objectively upgrading it.
Well, then the bottom two are probably staying bottom two, aren't they?
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd put TRK right up there or right down there with them, just because I just don't know.
I couldn't be more agreed, as the meme goes. Like TRK to MIBR does not excite me at all. Like I just do not care about this roster change.
I think that where unfortunately, we know that the Kristou and the YUGi things are both temporary, right? We know that they're either going to get replaced by somebody else, or the
should we just push TRK to the bottom? You're saying?
But the TRK one is the same problem, but
sure.
but a different.
So he's just going to be replaced, just like all of the.
Well, no, but that whole team needs to have a massive change. Like they need to get a coach. They need to change the way that they approach the game. They need to get rid of some of the players they've been holding on to for too many years now. Like there's changes that need to happen in the MIBR roster that aren't even ones that I want to begin discussing, because there's no way that those changes will happen with the current way that team is run, right? Like that's not even it's not even a point getting into that conversation, because they're just not going to change. So it's not even, it's like us, we could sit here and say, yeah, well, fucking, if everybody was just nice to each other, we'd have world peace. Sure, it's the same with MIBR being successful again. Like we don't know how they're going to go about that. Let's not even talk about that shit. Let's look at the good ones: Hampus, Farlig, and YEKINDAR. Now,
look, does anybody argue with the fact that Farlig to GODSENT is the best one?
I reckon that's the best one, because immediate upgrade, I think that impact will be felt. Whereas I think for Hampus for NIP is going to take some time. And I think that YEKINDAR, obviously the VP, we have the same issue. They have to wait until Buster comes back to replace Sanji.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's how I'm looking at it.
So essentially just moved the whole list to the right.
But there you go.
No, I would say I would actually put YEKINDAR over Hampus.
Yeah. Ooh,
I think there's much bigger chance that YEKINDAR is going to have like a big impact on VP rather than Hampus on an IP. I'm not necessarily sure that
I have to agree with that, just because like VP is at a lower spot at the moment in the rankings and everywhere, just like in people's minds. NIP is like, oh, they've been doing well online and stuff like that. So I don't think NIP is going to suddenly become a top 5 team. They'll most likely still be around the top 10.
Sure, I get, yeah.
And VP could make a shift to like again being a top 15 team.
What are they now, like 22nd or something?
25 even or something like that. 22nd actually, yeah, you're right.
They've dropped off quite significantly, haven't they?
And that's not even the lowest they've been since the whole drop off. I think it was like 25 at worst. I think.
I hate that we've had so many teams that have made it to major finals and then they just shit after. Like Ents, VP.
I like how you're massively struggling with.
I can keep going here. Immortals, Gambit even won a major and then they were shit instantly after. There's more. That's 4 teams I've named. And that could keep going.
Did you say Immortals or not?
I did, yes. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Okay, well this was easy. The next bit won't. Oh, Cloud9. Everyone's spamming Cloud9. Thank you guys. I'm glad that you reminded me of that one.
I mean, this might be a noob, like a pleb question, but the YUGi transfer to Astralis. Are we 100% sure it's not gonna open up for a 7-man roster afterwards?
But it is a 7-man roster.
But
like he'll probably stay there.
But is it just gonna stay there?
The thing is, at this point we don't know. But our best guess is that sure he's probably gonna stay, but it's not gonna be like the advertised, actual 6-man roster where they're gonna swap out players like pretty consistently, right? I just think he's kind of a last-minute decision, in line with what I was saying earlier. I don't think he was necessarily meant to be. There was actually meant to be a 7-man roster. I think it was meant to be 6. And because they just couldn't make it work with as a tag, YUGi just came in as a 7th too.
Now, just on that, Lucas, as well, during one of the broadcasts, I think it was Road to Rio, we had Device on, and we said, oh, YUGi's joined the team now. Like, how's this going to work? Are you going to, like, mentor him, and he's going to, like, shadow you, and you'll show him, like, the ropes and all this kind of stuff? He said, well, normally, not normally, I think something along the lines of that is potentially how it could have worked. But this is, I don't think they're aware. I think that they're kind of just having to fill some gaps right now, and they'll see what happens in the future. Like, if YUGi was to come in and not have to play and mentor Device, and you can just have him learn from Device about like why he makes these decisions, why he takes these peaks and shit, that'd be great. But unfortunately, he has to play in the team at the same time, and it's just not gonna. It doesn't feel like it's gonna work in the short term.
That's the worst part of it about it. Is just that he can't even play his normal role, so he can't even learn about his normal role because that's already taken by somebody. And makes perfect sense, right? That it would be Device playing that just because he's the fucking best at it in the world, probably.
Yeah.
So.
But it's a good person to learn from, and hopefully for YUGi, he can get that opportunity once things settle down. But this next one here we'll jump into is top 3 changes we would do right now. And this one here, I think, could be a bit of fun. Now, I don't know what you had in mind for this, Prof, Maybe lighten up.
I actually did not think about it a lot. I was hoping you would.
Oh, I got it then. That's fine. Here we go. Lucas, bring up that top 30 list that we had again. Whack that in the middle of the screen for a second here. And what we're going to do is there's 3 of us. So we're all going to pick a team. And we're all... now, in terms of the top 3 changes we'd want to do right now, let's have a look at all the teams in the top 30. As you just said before, the top 30 is looking pretty threatening for a lot of the names. But probably teams within the top 10 at the moment are teams who I'd be looking at who are ones that are either on the decline or have been wobbling a little bit, right? So, Lucas, can you bring that list up for us?
So, like,
Thank you.
I think we can do like 1 or maybe even 2 changes in one team if we want.
Okay.
And just do like whatever while it's like vaguely realistic. We don't really have to think about all of the buyout situation, who signed a new contract or whatever. Just like, let's go like theory crafting completely.
Okay.
A player that would fit in some like meaningful way.
I could go crazy. Na'Vi, get rid of Flamey, Boomich, and Perfecto, and add 3 good players.
Well, who would those be?
Who they are? I haven't thought about that. No, I'm trying to fill some time here while we think of some genuine options here.
Look, I already thought of one, right? Which is not necessarily the third. Well, the contact one.
Okay.
With Alex, because I think that just makes so much sense.
What about? Well, I don't know. Let's put it down. Let's jot it down. Let's get it on our magical list here because obviously we want to do top 3, right? So
we can throw in ideas until we figure out like what we
sure.
want. So don't be shy with that.
I think, like, honestly, though, with the Na'Vi roster, I think they should make some changes. I really do. I think Flamey should probably go. I don't particularly think Perfecto's done anything of worth, but if he can take Flamey's anchoring positions on bomb sites, he was good at anchoring bomb sites before. I don't like the overlap between those two. So if we were to do one, get Flamey out of there, and if I had to bring in somebody... I
like how quickly you gave up on Na'Vi, by the way. Just like 2 months ago, you were so fucking banging on that door.
Like they've looked shit. Like I don't normally say that about teams, but Na'Vi, like I love Simple and I love Electronic. In my opinion, those 2 guys are super sick. Like I think as a duo, I would have a hard time right now saying they're like the best duo. I couldn't say that anymore, I don't think, but those 2 guys, like just watching them play and some of the stuff they do, it is so insane. But the form that Na'Vi have been putting down as a team, it's like they're not even practicing. They're losing to like domestic opponents and shit. I didn't know. I know there's a big change between online and LAN. I keep saying that, but it can't be that big. It can't be like that big of a change. I think that Mia, SDY, those kind of names, like they seem.
Young, I do think is like been. For quite a long time, like next on the list of like CIS players who would make the step up. So I'm
pretty sure Na'Vi also considered them when they were considering Buster as well. Not Buster, I mean Kicker. And that was before Guardian stepped in, I guess, something like that. So yeah,
wasn't it after?
I guess before, and then they magically decided to pick up Guardian, which no one thought was going to be a thing.
Maybe.
That was pretty wild.
And Mir has stepped up like his game now in Spirit, so he is now maybe becoming an option as well. That is also a player that had like, he was a star player, then turned to like complete shit and was absent for like since 2017.
Yeah, but he got put on Gambit, man. Like
you're talking about Mir, right?
Yeah, there was nothing happening for him on like that Gambit roster was like you could just see that those guys they needed to
be disbanded.
Yeah, like those guys unfortunately they just won the major and shit. They had other priorities, other shit on their mind. Like unfortunately that's just the way that it went for a lot of those players, I felt. I liked my EG Liquid merge. I don't know, like that was a bit of a joke, but I think like you could make a good team out of those 2. If you were to be serious. I don't know if anyone here that I can think of that wouldn't ruin another team though. Like I'm looking at all these different
you don't have to think about the other team. Just think about one team that needs to upper. Fuck the other team. Okay. The other team doesn't matter. Like
Vitality.
Well, I mean, we were already talking about Liquid minus Nitro plus Cirque, which I think also makes a lot of sense.
Let's do that. Let's write that down.
Yeah, that's an easy change.
Minus Nitro,
I think it's actually very likely to happen down the line at some point. Unless they pick up like another opera, which I'm not sure who they get at this point.
Like
if there's anybody else who was. Yeah, I guess that'd be an option, but I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe.
Someone's just said, I just want to quickly get this. Someone says, STF, you spun Joe Member very well. You said it could work with Guardian and you're excited. I was very excited, and it didn't work. But I was,
he was excited for the new lineup as well.
I was excited for the new lineup too.
He was excited about every Navi lineup.
I really get excited about Navi. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
So that's what I told you, by the way, at the time. It's like every single time Navi just excites somebody, I just expect it's not going to lead anywhere. It's been that for such a long time.
It's just so sad. I
have a potential one. Vitality.
Oh, that's where I was gonna go. Okay, who
minus probably Misuta, just because I don't know what he's. I don't know
really
what's the point, or maybe you go minus RPK because you can't remove Apex at this moment.
Why not?
Why not?
Because he's in game leading.
So
who do you get?
Okay, so who's your replacement?
My replacement is Maka.
Oh, okay.
And get ZywOo on the rifles.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't like this. I don't like this because I was not a fan of Simple going to the rifle as well. I saw the logic there. I understand, but the AWP is just such a fucking strong weapon in the hands of somebody like a Simple and ZywOo that I just wouldn't want to have those two players be on like on a subpar weapon. I don't think there's a way they can be just as impactful without.
But the thing is, like, the whole community was, let's say, split on this idea: should Simple be opping or not? But now that we saw it happen, we're all gonna say it's shit just because Navi was shit, because Guardian was absolutely
I thought
bad.
The same thing before as well.
But when you look at this, like, Simple stats as rifler, this wasn't a big difference. And then when you have to think about is for the team, the guy that is opping is gonna have better stats because he's more set up. But that is maybe the issue. What is ZywOo gonna be without the flashes of the French roster, right? But I think he has enough skill to pull it off, and he was not always meant to be a primary opper anyway. So I think.
I mean, Simple wasn't either, but he just like
Maka is the best promising talent in France right now that can be picked up.
Yeah, I mean, as a general improvement of the team, I can see that. I not because of Simple and how it didn't work out. I just think the AWP has been shown as the strongest weapon in the game, and having it in the hands of the best player on the team makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just been that for such a long time in CSGO that I don't think it just makes so much sense.
For me, I think we're in like a swing right now. Like, I think we're swinging back into more structured Counter-Strike a little bit. Like, there was a brawly period for a while there. I think we're swinging back into more structured CS. So I don't know, when it was Guardian and Simple, and Guardian was going to do primary AWPing, which meant Simple could be more flexible, I just envisioned a lot of double CT-sided AWPing setups actually working. Not like MIBR's ones, which don't work, but ones that could actually work. And then I thought that Simple, as a player, he doesn't need the AWP, right? I'm kind of in Prof's camp. I don't think that he needs the AWP. I think he's good with everything, and I think he could be more impactful when he's involved in rounds. I think that it's great hearing from him. Yeah, I like this role because I can help everybody and I don't want Simple helping everybody. I want Simple in a position that no one can enter. I want Simple holding a part of the map where if they come to him, they cannot come in. It's knock knock. No, you're going away. I don't want any of your I don't want to buy your telephone book or your shitty laptop or your fucking knives. Simple's there to tell you to fuck off, right? Whereas on the AWP, he has to play sometimes more of a rotator role or something that can't be as impactful on certain maps. And I guess this conversation we're having more about ZywOo, right?
But the thing is, he always found ways to use it, whether it was in a bad situation or not. Like, he was capable. That's the thing. He kind of broke the AWP Simple because he was able to use it in situations where normally any other.
But we're talking about ZywOo, so
well, that's the kind of. I think he's the same thing. I think it's very similar between those two skill wise, because ZywOo could also, like, maybe not to such an extreme degree, but ZywOo also has the same kind of an what do you call it? Ability to, there you go. For just like finding his way out of like ridiculous situations with the AWP. And I'm not entirely sure that he would be able to do the same thing with a gun that is not as, I guess, reliable as the AWP, where it's just literally one shot, one kill, where it's a lot about movement and how you like work around like finding individual duels and stuff like that. Like if you go with an AK against an AWP who's holding an angle, you're probably gonna lose. Like it doesn't matter if you're the best player in the world. Like if he has an angle on you and knows that you're coming, you're probably gonna lose that duel.
Just headshot.
But if you go up to an AWP, it's much more 50-50, and if you're the better AWPer, you might win just because you're peeking him, right? So it's just like from those kind of perspectives, I just feel like those people should just stay on the AWP because
we don't have to talk about this for 10 minutes. You can just say my idea.
Sure, we can move on.
I
agree with like the whole thing because Vitality definitely need like some sort of change and having. I could see it like working out in the end and working better than this team anyway. So I could get behind it at least.
I would want to get rid of players from Vitality too, but I'd probably want to get rid of Apex and Shock.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was thinking not Masuta, not RPK. Masuta might as well too. It's just like could be 3 players, but I just don't know who the replacements would be.
I want to see more from Masuta. He hasn't had a fair chance. Like,
yeah, that's fair enough
honest,
for me.
As a rookie, he's been put into a team that was fucked. It's not like this Bymas kid who's coming in. And he has an opportunity to play in a team. He has a team who's had a new in-game leader. They lost their identity. Everything's kind of fucked in that regard. If you were to take anybody from Heretics and you wanted to maybe have a little bit of experience there, like Keo, I think
you could do plus Lucky as well for the
in-game leader.
Yeah.
But I would like if I was to take a risk, then I would probably get Lucky and Nevera, right? Because I think Nevera is another one of these rookies. You may as well go young with the team. ZywOo's legit. RPK, he's always good for his numbers. You may as well take a massive risk and see if you can actually have a young team. Whereas I think if you went Keo and Lucky, then you're putting a lot of eggs in the basket. The ZywOo and Masuda are going to be your 2 main stars, right? Like, I don't know. Are we ready to do that? I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're going to come up with 3 easy roster changes here, boys.
Yeah. What do you want me to write down, though?
Navi, legitimately, let's get rid of Flamey and put someone in there. Who can we put in there instead of Flamey? Fuck.
One of these players that tried to get already but couldn't.
Well, like Sunday Young.
I have Sponge. How do Brits and Australians get along?
What do you mean?
Yeah, like pretty much the same culture, don't you?
Like generally, how
we the banter's the same. The way that we talk is very similar. You'd think an Alex to 100 Thieves.
No.
Okay. Smooya?
No.
What the fuck are you talking about then?
Mantu to 100 Thieves.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mantu is Polish, obviously.
He's British, bro.
I know.
He's definitely British. Yeah. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Instead of Grad, I assume.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that's not a bad one, really. Like, he's more consistent than Grat.
How fucking unbelievable is it that Mantu is, by the way, the best player in that team?
It is pretty unbelievable.
Because it's not like he's massively set up in that team either. It's not like the same kind of situation that you see in like a Vitality, where it's obvious that they're putting a lot of faith in him and stuff. It's just he's actually good.
Oh, I've got one. Write this one down. I like this one.
Okay.
You ready? I hope everyone's sitting down. Replace Alu with Otto and replace X7 with Zen. Boom. Done. Close it down. Lock it up.
Don't know Yampi. Nothing about this whole 6-man thing.
He's back banned. So, apparently he's back banned. Yeah. So he doesn't come into my conversation of Counter-Strike, unfortunately. Sure. Poor guy, but that's just the way it is. Let's. I know a lot of people aren't fans, right? You're all not fans. You're not fans because you're like, why remove Alu? Why do you think Alexi B went in the first place, you motherfuckers? Why'd you all get so mad at Ents? Why do you think he was kicked? Because of Alu. That's why. So let's get.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
No, I'm not.
But we'll obviously have to wait for like 2 more years until people start talking about that.
Sure.
Publicly.
It's like when the statute of limitations ran out on that thing.
Because Sunny's in-game leading over there anyway, so it doesn't even matter. It's just like Sunny, just leave him there. He can fucking do whatever he needs. People are a bit like confused, right? Like I think in that team, Sunny, by taking the in-game leadership role, has like stifled a lot of his star power. So it has to be Sergey. I think that like Otto is pretty good. And I think that Zen is pretty good. Zen's old though, that's a bit of a problem right there. But we're trying to come up with roster changes here, so there's one. But let's add someone to Na'Vi. Who would you guys replace Flamey with? Mia? YEKINDAR?
Purely numbers wise, probably. So actually, I haven't seen Subdive in a while, but like if we were talking like late last year, I would have probably picked him.
What about Guardian? What if we replace Flamey with Guardian?
Fuck off! Don't do that.
We get like an Oscar on the team.
Jerry to in-game lead, or Sviat to in-game lead, or
Jerry is not a bad shout.
So that would be get rid of Boomich though. I'd get rid of Boomich.
Doesn't he need to? He wasn't even in game leader in Windstrike. Like, well, actually, for a while he was, but not at first. What I'm saying. He only transitioned into it.
Entry fragger role.
Yeah, he's like the kind of crazy guy who can just like go in and just like have Simple right behind him, trying to trade for him and like create him space.
He could be the semi Sanji on Na'Vi.
Yeah, except just like better, you know.
All right, boys, we've hit the 2-hour mark. It's 1 a.m. Let's look at these. Let's pick the best ones. We'll maybe go back into this at another point in time. Unfortunately, I got to get going. I got to pack up the studio.
Let's go. What do you think? What's the best one?
I think Nitro to Cirque is probably the one where you see the most immediate impact, but they also still lack an in-game leader, so that's always going to be a bit of a problem.
I mean, we just assume that Stewie is just going to take over, and I'm not totally opposed to it. It's just like he has to be the next best person in that team, as we were talking about. So unless you want to actually swap him out for like an in-game leader too, I just don't see
both the AWPer changes here. I think Nitro and Cirque and Grat and Mantu, like those two changes right there, like are the biggest standouts.
I have a third op one, which I didn't get to say. Poison to FaZe as their fifth instead of Bymas.
I kind of like Brokey on the AWP.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten used to it now, that idea.
It's not that I hate Poison on the AWP. I think Poison's a great AWPer. I just think that Brokey's like very serviceable within that team.
I think he's okay as well. Like he could grow into being like an awesome AWPer. At the moment, Poison is a better AWPer than him.
I agree.
It's pretty clear.
Poison, I think, like one of the best AWPers in the world right now.
I'm incredibly sold on that.
Do you want Nitro Cirque for the number one? You two agree?
Yeah,
I think so.
I'd say so.
Nitro.
Also, we're also missing the contact one, but it's like if you want to keep it to like top 30 teams, I don't care.
Oh yeah, the Alex situation.
Because I think that's like also like the most that's very likely to happen, honestly, or maybe not likely, but it's just like could easily happen tomorrow and we wouldn't be surprised.
Well, that's a good one. I think I could put that in at number 2. Like for bringing a team up, that would help them a lot. Like the Na'Vi stuff, like I'm overblowing it. Maybe when we get back to LAN or maybe in the next tournament, like in the DreamHack stuff, they'll start to look a little bit better. It's the same with the Ents stuff. Like, you know, I'm reaching. Ents have been looking better since Yampi's been on the team. X7's been like, some of the games he's played have been better. So just like reaching right there. I think
kind of like the Grat Montu because of just 100 Thieves have obviously, I feel like they've reached their peak and nothing big is going to change in like a near future without like some lineup changes. I think that lineup has already reached whatever they were going to reach. So I think having a star AWPer in that team to help JKS with the load more consistently, I think would do them a world of good. I like that for the third one for sure.
I agree. Like it also just goes with what you've been saying about like star AWPers and teams not having them. Like it's very rare. It's like 100 Thieves are the other one, except which team are you talking about?
I guess Fnatic.
Yeah.
They have obviously they have a good AWPer. It's just not not the star of the team, right?
Yeah, that team's weird. It's so strange that
Fnatic are just like fucking meta beaters. Like they haven't made sense in any fucking era of the game at all. Like maybe apart from like the early version.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've hit the end of the show. It's 1:05 a.m. We've been going for over 2 hours now. This is episode 20 of HLTV Confirmed. There's a bit of a somber end to this one. We'll try and get a show next week, I'm sure, at some time. DreamHack comes to a close, maybe after the charity thing. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching HLTV Confirmed. If you want to get the audio of this, you can head over to anchor.fm/HLTV. We'll announce the next episode at sometime soon. We'll maybe do another game changer episode. And keep your questions coming, guys. I'm sure we'll get around to a playtime where we'll get to answer them at some point. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.